I consider myself the winner of both the most unfortunate and most fortunate Transmigrator awards. A struggling 21st century college graduate, I transmigrated at my lowest point. I was reborn as the third young master of the Su family, the most prestigious clan in the Qingtian Empire, sharing my name and appearance. Being born into nobility and glory was my stroke of luck. However, as the son of the legendary god of war Su, I was born a martial arts cripple, a disgrace to my family's warrior legacy. For 3 years, I have been the Imperial capital's favorite laughingstock. My hereditary status was even downgraded from Duke to Baron because of my inability to cultivate. This was my misfortune. Yet, I remain optimistic, facing life's ups and downs with composure. If I'm a cripple, so be it. As the only direct male heir, I can still enjoy a life of luxury and leisure without effort. Just as I settled into the role of a playboy, an imperial decree pushed me back into the abyss. The decree, citing my lack of achievement as a stain on the empire and my father's name, orders me to serve as the lord of the remote Haishi County in Beishan. This decree is so perfunctory, the first prince must have written it himself, I remarked. Riding in a carriage, I joked with my old servant. This is the third young master, having experienced years of turmoil. Beishan County is notoriously desolate. The decree is a thinly veiled exile. Young master, be careful. If the first prince hears you, he'll criticize you again at the court assembly, the old servant warned. Subo, the old servant, looked at me with worried, wrinkled eyes. Subo, we've already left the capital and passed Yugu Pass. Who's left to hear me? I replied. The driver, a one-armed man, laughed heartily. This is Su Nan, a Ninghan realm martial artist and a retired soldier under the god of war. He and Su Bo have served me since childhood, forming a close bond. The Four Directions continent is a place where martial Tao flourishes. Cultivation is divided into 9 realms: Mingji, Gyuri, Ninghan, Baisui, Ranshin, Suepa, Wuzhen, Nyepan, and Chuanchi. In the Changtian Empire, most soldiers range from Mingji to Gyuri. Su Nan's Gyuri 9th realm strength makes him an elite soldier. Su Nan, don't encourage the young master's recklessness. Su Bo scolded. Su Bo glared at Su Nan, his protective nature evident. Though not a martial artist, Su Bo's devotion to me exceeds that of his stepmother in the capital. Su Nan smiled awkwardly and returned to driving. With 2 servants, a carriage, and a pittance of gold, my exile began. My only other possession is a dragon-shaped jade pendant left by my mother. The pendant is cool to the touch and helps me maintain a clear head. I fiddled with the pendant while leaning against the carriage. I sighed, wondering if my life would be different if my father hadn't been away at the northern frontier for a year. The young master is thinking of his mother again. Su Nan whispered to Su Bo. I was brought home by the god of war as a child, and my mother's identity remains a mystery. For 20 years, his stepmother has suppressed me while his father was away at war. I overheard their whispers and smiled. I felt no attachment to the biological mother I never knew. I only found it curious that a woman would abandon her child and her status as the wife of a war hero. His stepmother, backed by her sister the Empress, orchestrated my reputation as a playboy. She cut off my resources and forbade me from family affairs. I suspect my exile is a conspiracy between his stepmother and the first prince. I remain puzzled by their motives. Why provoke the god of war by targeting his only son? Despite the suppression, I have maintained my poise and elegance. I have grown into a handsome, refined young man. Few would mistake me for a mere playboy upon meeting me. Young master, come inside. It's getting cold, Su Bo urged. Fine, I agreed. The journey to Beishan will take at least half a month by carriage. As I turned to enter the carriage, they heard movement behind them. A knight in black jade cavalry armor approached on a fire cloud horse, kicking up dust. The Black Jade Cavalry are elite private soldiers of the Su family, all at the Ninghan realm. I wondered if his stepmother had finally decided to provide me with an escort, but sending only one rider seemed stingy. Young master, urgent report from the eldest sister, the knight shouted, breathless. The knight was covered in blood and swaying in his saddle. Are you from the Su family? I asked. The knight tossed me a letter, gasping. Don't take the main road. The stepmother has sent assassins to kill you. Before he could finish, an arrow pierced his back. Blood splattered onto my robe as the knight fell dead. Sunan deflected a second arrow aimed at me with his blade. The carriage halted. Behind them, a group of black jade cavalry soldiers appeared, their blades drawn. A one-eyed archer led the charge, sneering as he ordered his men, "Kill him. The master wants no survivors. A family technique manual goes to whoever kills me." This wasn't a rescue mission from my stepmother. It was a death sentence. She had sent these pursuers to ambush me on the road to Baishan County. How could she be so ruthless, fearing no retaliation from my father? My eyes glinted with cold resolve as I clenched my fists. The roar of "Kill" echoed as the enemy charged. The black jade cavalry surged forward like a dark, iron-blooded torrent toward my carriage. I felt a bitter pang in my heart. I had always admired my father's military prowess, yet now, the Su family's own elite soldiers were here to kill their master's son. "Young master, run. Sunan, will hold them off." Sunan roared, jumping from the carriage with his blade drawn. "Go, get on a horse." Su Bo frantically pushed me toward a horse, urging me to flee. "It's useless, Su Bo. I can't outrun their fire cloud horses." I remained calm, dismounting to face the approaching cavalry head-on. The dragon-patterned jade pendant at my neck glowed, warming my body and sharpening my focus. "Young master, why won't you run?" Sunan shouted, but the cavalry had already arrived. "Halt!" the one-eyed leader signaled, and the 50 black jade cavalry stopped in perfect unison. Their fire cloud horses reared, slamming their hooves down in front of the carriage, sending dust billowing and the carriage horses into a panic. Such precise horsemanship was impossible for ordinary soldiers. But for martial artists of the 4 continents, it was a trivial skill. "Haha, you're obedient, third young master. No intention of running." The one-eyed man leered at me with malicious intent. Sunan stood guard with his sword, while Su Bo gripped a wooden club, staring down the riders. "You'll have to go through me to touch the young master," Sunan declared, his veteran aura flaring. Having served under the god of war Su for a decade, he was unfazed. "Sunan? A one-armed soldier thinks he can show off." The leader sneered, "Get lost. I'll spare you for your past service to the family." The leader unleashed his Ninghun realm aura, locking onto Sunan. "I'm at the 3rd stage of Ninghun. I don't even need a bow to kill you." He mocked the trio, a useless master, a crippled soldier, and a frail servant. "Do you dare fight?" Sunan growled. He would not abandon his master. "A brave man, indeed," the leader chuckled. The leader laughed. Then his expression turned cold. He flicked his wrist, sending a bolt of black internal chi towards Sunan. Thud! Sunan was sent flying, coughing blood as he collapsed, pale and broken. He tried to rise, but the strike had shattered his internal force, leaving him paralyzed. Ignoring Sunan, the leader gestured for his men to seize Su Bo. A sharp blade pressed against my neck, drawing a thin line of blood. "No one left to protect you now, Su Yu," the leader taunted. I looked him in the eye. "You aren't of the Su family. How do you command their troops?" 50 Ninghun experts. There was no hope of survival. Was this my fate after 3 years of trying to live quietly? I felt a deep, burning resentment. So much for being a transmigrator. Without power, I was nothing but a pawn. "Oh," the leader laughed. "Is that your last will?" "I served the first prince. These men were lent to me by your kind mother. She wanted to ensure you didn't survive." The leader slapped me across the face. I fell, spitting blood, my expression remaining eerily calm. "That look in your eyes, it almost scares me." The leader smiled, his eyes glinting with murderous intent. "Poor young master, you really are a waste, aren't you?" The leader looked down from his horse. "Damn it." Sunan struggled to rise, only to be humiliated under the boots of the cavalry. I stood up, my robes stained with blood and dust, my eyes burning with newfound intensity. "I am the heir of the Su family of the Qingtian Empire. Do you dare kill your master?" I shouted. The 50 riders hesitated, unable to meet my gaze. They were supposed to be the god of war soldiers. Killing his son was an unforgivable betrayal. The leader's smile vanished. "Trying to turn them? These aren't your father's soldiers. They are your mother's personal guards." They were her dowry guards, not the Su family's private army. She is no mother of mine." I retorted. "I refuse to acknowledge that venomous woman." "Is that your final word?" the leader asked. The leader drew his blade, pointing it at my throat. Time to go, young master. Asterisk, if I had another chance, I wouldn't be so naive. I would have wielded the blade myself. Asterisk, I sighed, then lifted my head proudly. In this world, power and status were the only truths. But there were no second chances. I realized this too late. One mistake led to another. I had been too trusting, too passive. Regardless, I would die like a man. A Sioux would never beg. Too bad, there is no second chance. The leader laughed, trembling with the anticipation of the rewards promised by the first prince. To kill the son of the god of war was the ultimate glory. As the leader raised his blade, my blood dripped onto the dragon-patterned jade pendant. Sizzle. The pendant absorbed the blood, glowing with an intense, searing heat against my chest. Amidst the agony, a mechanical voice echoed in my mind, absorbing host's essence blood. Activating dormant system. Loading. Grand Lord system loaded. Initial modules activated. Territory module. Not detected. Activation failed. Newbie rewards issued. Life-threatening danger detected. Smart matching activated. Selecting items. Selection successful. Items transferred. A flood of distant memories echoed in my mind, leaving me momentarily dazed. The relentless influx of information, a Lord system, and newbie rewards left my consciousness in chaos. After 3 years of waiting, my golden finger had finally arrived. I felt a mix of surprise and bitter irony. Suddenly, I felt a heavy, dragon-eye-sized pill materialize in my clenched fist. Don't hurt my master. Su Nan roared in agony, struggling to rise despite his wounds as one-eyed dragon's blade descended. Su Bo, pale with terror, was held back by the Black Jade Cavalry. Without hesitation, I swallowed the pill. Since it came from the system and was linked to my mother's dragon-patterned jade pendant, I trusted it. The pill dissolved instantly, surging with energy through my entire body. Boom! A deafening roar erupted from within me as a powerful aura exploded outward. Shield. Gang Chi manifested, enveloping me. The blade struck the barrier and rebounded with such force that one-eyed dragon nearly fell from his horse. I soared into the air, my gaze cold as I looked down at my enemy. Surrounded by swirling Gang Chi, my white robes fluttering, I declared, "Who said I didn't have a second chance?" Today, I vowed, I shall cast aside all shackles and slaughter everything that stands in my way. My resolve was absolute. In this chaotic world of warring nations, only supreme power could guarantee true freedom. I chose to fight, against men, the earth, and the heavens, to claim my glory and name. I would fight for my own eternal peace. One-eyed dragon stood stunned, his sword trembling under my overwhelming pressure. This is the power of the Ranshan realm, he gasped in disbelief. The 50 Black Jade cavalrymen fell into a deathly silence. Su Bo and Su Nan stared up at the floating me in utter shock. No one expected the trash of the Su family to suddenly possess such terrifying strength. The pill had propelled me to the peak of the Ranshan realm, far surpassing the Bai Sui and Ninghun stages. With a 2-stage gap in power, one-eyed dragon trembled in the face of a true superior. It was the crushing majesty of a powerhouse. My eyes were now cold, filled with lethal intent. Black Jade Cavalry, form up, one-eyed dragon croaked, rallying his men. The elite unit quickly surrounded me. Traitors who kill their masters, how dare you still breathe? I sneered, unleashing a wave of sharp, blade-like Gang Chi. The air whistled with lethal force. The shockwave sent the cavalrymen flying backward. The invisible blades of wind sliced their throats instantly, killing them before they even hit the ground. The riders collapsed, their faces frozen in expressions of despair and terror. So this is power, I whispered, my eyes burning. With a flick of my wrist, I held the lives of thousands in my palm. Su Nan watched, dumbfounded. Young master, he's so strong. He isn't trash. Master, he was never trash. Su Bo sobbed, overcome with joy. Their loyalty to me ran deeper than anyone else's. My sudden rise terrified the enemy, but brought my servants to tears. My survival was their greatest hope. Impossible. How could you become this strong? One-eyed dragon shrieked in despair. Nothing is impossible, I replied, diving toward him. I moved with blinding speed, seizing one-eyed dragon by the throat before he could react. The man gasped for air. I held him aloft with one hand, my gangchi suppressing the man's internal force. Despite my slender frame and one-eyed dragon's massive, 300-pound build, the hold was effortless. This was the sheer strength of a martial artist. Please, spare me, young master. One-eyed dragon's eyes bulged, his face turning purple as he begged for his life. He had severely underestimated his target. Neither the Su family matriarch nor the first prince had anticipated that a 20-year-old could wipe out 50 Ninghun stage elites in one move. Desperate to survive and report this intelligence, One-Eyed Dragon pleaded. Scared now? I thought you were a man, I mocked. Slap. One-Eyed Dragon's face swelled, and he spat out several teeth. Humiliation burned in his eyes. This is for Su Bo, who served me like a father, I stated coldly. One-Eyed Dragon tried to speak, but slap. The other side of his face swelled instantly. This is for Su Nan, whom you dared to bully. Slap. This is for myself. I may have lacked talent, but I am not to be insulted. Slap. This is for the first prince. Wait, why him? One-Eyed Dragon was confused and broken, his face a mangled mess. Because he is my enemy. I sneered, continuing the assault. Why keep hitting me? The man wailed. Because I want to. I infused each slap with Ranshan-level power, leaving the man dazed and bleeding. Su Nan and Su Bo watched in stunned silence. Their gentle young master had become ruthless, adhering to one principle: crush the enemy. Young master, please. I'll never oppose you again. One-Eyed Dragon wept, begging for mercy. Yet, inwardly, he seethed with hatred, vowing to bring an army to destroy me the moment he escaped. Pity. While I'm usually compassionate, I treat my enemies like a demon. My cold, hollow tone chilled the One-Eyed Dragon to the bone. The One-Eyed Dragon's eyes filled with despair and reluctance. The gap between the Ranshan and Ninghun realms was insurmountable. He deeply regretted taking this thankless task just to claim the credit for killing me. If he hadn't accepted this mission, he wouldn't be dying. Young master, you. He rasped, desperate to beg for mercy. I raised my hand, my fingers glowing with a jade-like white light. Swish, slash. With a single strike, I decapitated the One-Eyed Dragon, his head rolling onto the grass as blood stained the earth. I released my hand, letting the corpse drop. Despite this being my first kill across 2 lifetimes, I felt no panic. I remained calm, perhaps due to the innate nature hidden deep within the Su family bloodline. Killing a mere enemy was hardly worth a blink. I stared at the body, lost in thought. The first prince's enmity with me was common knowledge in the Imperial capital. But how did my vicious stepmother dare to collude with the first prince to hunt me down? This troubled me deeply. Young master, you. Su Nan and Su Bo approached, supporting each other, their faces etched with concern. Are you all right? They assumed I was stunned by the shock of killing 51 men for the first time. I'm fine. I smiled calmly. Su Bo, rest. Su Nan, search these men for anything useful. The carriage is ruined. Abandon it, and pick out a few fire cloud horses so we can continue. As long as my stepmother wanted me dead, I couldn't let my guard down. Leaving was the priority. Yes. Su Nan replied respectfully. They were sensitive to my changes, rarely seeing me this cold and composed. It seemed this battle had fundamentally altered my temperament. They went to clear the battlefield. Suddenly, a notification echoed in my mind. First battle victory. Rating, perfect. Congratulations on obtaining a perfect-rated lottery draw. The system. I had almost forgotten. I sat under a tree and mentally reached out to the system. System? How do I operate you? I probed. The system was my foundation. Host brainwaves detected. Initiating data infusion. Formatted to your familiar memory patterns. Infusion starting. A mechanical voice sounded as a stream of data flooded my mind like a movie. Humph. I groaned in agony as the forced memory transfer felt like needles piercing my soul, though the system kept me conscious. Epic scenes flashed through my mind, each one etched into my memory. A voice introduced the system throughout the process. The Grand Lord system is a treasure born from the chaos of the universe, designed to cultivate the strongest lord in the plane. It features general cultivation, technology R&D, lottery wheels, myriad realms mall, and the summoning of elite legions. Images accompanied the introduction. In every scene, a man with a refined, arrogant air appeared. It was me. I operated the system, securing my first territory, gathering refugees, harvesting public support energy, and cultivating invincible generals and soldiers. I saw warriors with the power of the Monkey King, strategists surpassing Zhuge Liang, and unstoppable legions. The version of me in the visions led my legions to conquer the Four Directions continent and plunder resources across plains. With one sword, I slew immortals. With one thought, I decided the fate of all. The visions finally settled on a final scene. A vast, boundless wilderness. Tens of thousands of dragons roared, the Flying Dragon Legion. Beasts with power rivaling demigods, the Monster Legion. Millions of flame demons and winged demons from the abyss, the Demon Legion. Countless godlike beings knelt in reverence toward a mountain peak. On the peak stood a young man, cold and regal me. The version of me on the peak turned, his gaze locking with my own. His eyes were like ink, his voice like ice, his aura like the heavenly Tao. This is your destiny. The sheer pressure of that voice snapped me back to reality. I gasped, covered in cold sweat. This is power beyond the legendary realm, beyond gods and immortals. I muttered to myself. The version of me on the peak was unimaginably strong. Would I truly become that powerful? I felt lost, yet exhilarated. The system's introduction echoed in my ears. I would command infinite planes and hold the power of life and death over billions. What were the emperors of the Four Directions continent compared to this? They only ruled a patch of land. I could collect beauties from every plane and rule territories stretching to the end of the universe. The memories felt so vivid, as if I had lived them yesterday. The thrill of mastery, the loneliness of being invincible, the eternal life. It was intoxicating. It was addictive. The system's destiny is to find its host and cultivate him into the Supreme Lord. Whether a wastrel or a cripple, my host shall be the supreme ruler of all worlds. You are a king. Why settle for less? You are a king. You shall look down upon all. The system concluded. The data infusion was a terrifyingly realistic simulation of my potential path. This was my future. I am a king. I shall not settle for less. I am a king. I shall look down upon all. I whispered, my eyes burning with fervor. I had wanted a life of leisure, but this chaotic world, my stepmother, and the first prince would not allow it. So be it. I would become a king of slaughter first, then seek my leisure later. I was still weak, not yet a true lord, and had yet to reach Beishan County to claim my territory. But since I had decided to fight, I had to hurry. The first prince and my stepmother were like wolves, waiting to kill me. I took a breath and looked at my companions. System, open the interface. Swish, a transparent, cubic light screen appeared. It was designed to match my 21st century memories, making it intuitive. Only I could see the screen. To others, I was just gesturing at empty air. A few options were displayed. While the system was powerful, many functions were locked due to my low level and lack of territory. Still, the initial options were enough to satisfy me. Lord attributes, territory attributes, system mall, lottery wheel, Lord's backpack, newbie online gift pack. I scanned the list line by line, my expression freezing when I reached the final item. I felt a mix of helplessness, surprise, and amusement. There was actually a newbie online gift pack. This was exactly like the game upgrade templates from Earth. Could it be that by staying online for an hour, one could get some small, top-tier items for free? I stroked my chin in thought. In the memory dream I had experienced earlier, this newbie online gift pack had not appeared at the beginning. Was this thing unique? I tentatively asked, System, since there is a newbie online gift pack, is there a newbie level up gift pack? The kind where you get a bunch of great rewards every time you level up. No, the system's voice replied, mechanical and concise, echoing within my sea of consciousness. I felt a slight disappointment, but my spirits lifted shortly after. No level up gift pack, only an online one. That was acceptable too. I tapped on the newbie online gift pack on the system interface. A notification popped up. Time remaining to claim gift pack, 29 days, 23 hours, 13 minutes. It was a countdown, with no other information provided. Great, so I have to wait a month? I gave a bitter smile. Forget it, let me check the other options. Open backpack, I said softly. Swish. The Lord's backpack popped open. I realized that this so-called Lord's backpack was an independent small plane space of about 100 cubic meters, directly attached to my soul, which I could open with a single thought. My gaze swept over it. There were several items stored directly inside. These were the items from the newbie gift pack issued when the system was first activated, stored directly in my Lord's backpack. True Emperor Sword, True Emperor Scroll, Dragon Pattern Jade Pendant, Eternal Marrow Cleansing Pill. There were 4 items. Originally, there should have been 5, but one of them, the Burning God Pill, had already been used by me. Among these 5 items, aside from the Burning God Pill, which was a unique holy pill of the 4 Directions continent, the other 4 were holy items carefully selected from across the myriad worlds. Having already had memories of operating and exchanging items in the system mall, I was no stranger to these 4 things. Not bad, all good stuff. I nodded, smiling with satisfaction. These items were exactly what I urgently needed right now. True Emperor's Sword, the Lord's personal sword, sharing the same origin as the Grand Lord system. It is an object of the chaos of the myriad worlds, indestructible. It possesses the advanced sharpness trait and is a growth-type weapon that requires the Lord to nurture it personally. It is currently in the first stage of nurturing. True Emperor Scroll, the supreme cultivation technique of the myriad worlds once recorded on the True Emperor Sword. It is suitable for humans in any plane across the myriad worlds. Its techniques are profound and exquisite, with perfect and mysterious moves and mental cultivation methods. It can be called the #1 technique of the myriad worlds. No other technique in the world can surpass it. Eternal Marrow Cleansing Pill, a supreme treasure of the ancient immortal realm. Regardless of the user's original talent, their aptitude will transform into an innate supreme Tao body. Dragon Pattern Jade Pendant, a mysterious treasure. Its effects are currently unknown, but it is certain that wearing it long-term accelerates the absorption of heaven and earth's spiritual energy. Burning God Pill, a supreme treasure of the 4 Directions continent. Regardless of the user's current strength, they can possess the peak strength of the Ranshan realm for 7 days, with no side effects. 5 treasures, every one of them top tier. Of course, the Dragon Pattern Jade Pendant is not counted among them. This Dragon Pattern Jade Pendant was originally my own, the one left behind by my biological mother that hung around my neck. Originally, the Grand Lord system was loaded onto this Jade Pendant, but after I activated the system, it bound directly to my soul. The system detached from the pendant, and the pendant itself disappeared from my neck and appeared in the Lord's backpack. However, this Dragon Pattern Jade Pendant was quite special, causing the system to be unable to detect its attributes for the time being. Of course, the system's detection capability was directly linked to my strength and territory level. Perhaps in the future, the system would be able to detect exactly what kind of treasure the Jade Pendant was. My thoughts moved quickly as I took out the Dragon Pattern Jade Pendant and hung it back around my neck. A warm sensation radiated from the pendant, and the spiritual energy around me gradually grew denser, beginning to gather slowly toward me. It was a pity, however, that my physical talent was still too trashy to absorb this spiritual energy autonomously. I gave a bitter smile. I would have to make do for now and wait until I found a safe place to take the Eternal Marrow Cleansing Pill to change my physique. Clang! I drew the True Emperor Sword from my backpack. The blade was about 1.3 meters long and 2 fingers wide, with an azure dragon faintly coiled around it. A truly extraordinary sword. The hilt was inlaid with small, delicate gemstones, dazzling and eye-catching. I gave it a light flick, and the True Emperor Sword let out a clear, ringing sound like a dragon's roar. Truly a fine sword. I laughed, sheathed the sword, and wore it at my side. I turned my gaze back to the system screen to continue examining the other options. Since I hadn't reached Beishan County yet, my territory was blank, and the territory attributes could not be opened. Currently, I could only operate the Lord attributes and system mall. Oh, right, there was also one lottery chance. However, I chose to postpone the lottery and first check the Lord attributes. Name, Suyu. Race, human race. Territory, none. Lord level, 0. Strength, 4 Directions continent. Ranshan realm peak. Remaining time, 6 days, 23 hours. Public support energy, 0. Lord Talent, none. Lord Skills, none. Lord Legion, none. Lord Servant, none. Other options, locked. The simple and clear attributes made me feel a bit ashamed. I was, after all, still just a newbie lord, penniless and empty-handed. As for the public support energy I had been looking forward to, it was, as expected, 0. This public support energy needed to be obtained through the people in my territory. The more people I had under my command, and the higher their recognition and adoration for me, the more public support energy I would receive each month. Public support energy had a wide range of uses, whether it was building legions, cultivating generals, strengthening myself, or exchanging items in the system mall. None of it could be done without public support energy. It could be said that if I wanted to become powerful, I undoubtedly needed a sufficient and constant stream of public support energy. It seems I must take this trip to Banished County seriously. I smiled, murmuring to myself with deep meaning. Previously, I had held a get-by attitude toward the position of Frontier Lord, but since I had chosen to become strong and sit as the Supreme King, I could no longer be slack. Let Heir County and Banished County become the place where my dragon takes flight. I clenched my fists, my heart burning with fervor. System, open the lottery wheel. I calmed my emotions and said in a low, steady voice. Swish. A colorful, flashing wheel suddenly appeared before me, filled with a dazzling array of items. There were hundreds of slots of varying sizes for different rewards. There were supreme cultivation techniques, invincible treasures, summoning charms to call forth mythical figures to fight, demon contracts to directly connect to the abyss plane and become a demon lord, and even peerless beauties of national renown, as well as a divine pill that could make one ascend to immortality on the spot. Of course, having many good things naturally meant there were even more pieces of junk. A pot of fine Longjing tea, a stack of research reports from a technological plane, an exam paper from a middle school student on Earth. The more I looked, the more my mouth twitched. I only had one lottery chance. This was purely a gamble on my luck. Oh well, dragging it out wouldn't increase the chances of getting something good. Let's draw. Start lottery. I took a deep breath and shouted in a low voice. I was a decisive person. If I got something good, great. If not, so be it. Although I comforted myself this way, I couldn't help but feel a sliver of anticipation. My eyes were fixed tightly on the massive lottery wheel that had begun to rotate slowly. The colorful lottery wheel spun continuously, its speed increasing rapidly. Please decide when to stop the lottery. If there is no response within 5 minutes, the lottery will stop automatically. The system's prompt arrived. The colorful lottery wheel was too huge, with too many slots, and the pointer spun too fast. I racked my brains, but could find no way to exploit it. Stop! I took a deep breath and shouted in a low voice. Since there was no other way to improve the quality of the reward, I might as well know the results sooner. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Swish. The speed of the colorful wheel gradually slowed down and came to a halt. I looked at the direction of the pointer. 9-turn immortal pill. Damn, does it have to be this exciting? My eyes widened, and my breathing grew heavy. This was a peerless divine pill that could make one ascend to immortality on the spot. However, the pointer, which seemed to have stopped, jumped again. I felt my own heartbeat jumping fiercely along with the pointer. Ding! With a soft sound, the pointer jumped forward 1 slot, skipping the 9-turn immortal pill and stopping in the slot behind it. Jade Prince Celadon Robe. Legendary tier robe, impervious to water and fire, changes at will, and possesses extremely powerful defensive capabilities. This was a piece of equipment at the legendary realm. All items in the 4 Directions continent were divided into 9 levels, from Mingji to legendary. Weapons were the most precious, followed by various mysterious treasures, while defensive jewelry and clothing were extremely rare. There was no other reason than the fact that even forging a lowest-level Mingji realm weapon required quite a few heaven and earth spiritual treasures and precious materials. As for jewelry and clothing treasures, they were undoubtedly the least practical. Few people would waste precious materials to forge useless jewelry and clothing, let alone legendary realm clothing. Even in the Changtian Empire, a vast empire covering millions of square kilometers, non-weapon legendary realm treasures rarely appeared. What a luxury! I was caught between laughter and tears. I would have been very happy to draw a legendary realm treasure, but it just had to be a robe. Oh well, a robe is a robe. I accepted it calmly. I had already gained enough benefits, and no matter how excellent the equipment was, it was ultimately an external object. Rather than coveting pills and treasure weapons, it was better to work hard on cultivating the true Emperor Scroll, technique unique to the Grand Lord system, to improve my own strength. My thoughts cleared, and I didn't feel much frustration. On the contrary, the more I looked at the robe, the more I liked it. The robe was snow white, embroidered with golden dragon-veined silk, and paired with threads of blue and white porcelain patterns. It looked exceptionally mysterious and felt soft and very comfortable to the touch. I loved it. Without further ado, I decisively took the robe out of the Lord's backpack and changed into it with nimble movements. Truly, clothes make the man. After changing into the Jade Prince robe, my temperament and appearance shot up. I wore a snow-white prince's robe, tied at the waist with a matching golden silk spider-patterned belt, wearing the dragon-patterned jade pendant and the true emperor's sword. My black hair was tied up and secured with a jade-inlaid gilded crown specially made by the Su family. My slender body stood straight, and my entire being exuded an innate nobility, making me seem high and unreachable, yet grounded. Young Master Yu. Su Nan and Su Bo walked over from not far away, staring at me in astonishment. In the blink of an eye, their young master had completely changed. With a precious sword, a new robe, and the ethereal temperament of the Ranshan realm, my aura appeared even more transcendent. Looking at me, Su Nan and Su Bo felt that such a graceful young master was like an immortal who had fallen into the mortal world. Ethereal, indifferent, dashing, and handsome. Is everything handled? I smiled and turned to ask. Both were my personal servants. Although they were curious about where I got these seemingly extraordinary treasures, they understood once they thought of my identity. After all, I was the only youngest son most beloved by God of War Su. How could I not have some trump cards? Both of them attributed the extra items on me to God of War Su, which saved me from having to waste my breath explaining. Yes, young master, everything is handled. There were no valuables on these black jade cavalry, though I did scrape together some wealth from the one-eyed knight, but not much. Also, Su Bo and I selected a few Mingji realm weapons and firecloud horses. The remaining corpses were hastily covered on the spot. Su Nan bowed and said, his tone extremely respectful. Time was short. They couldn't dig pits to bury all 50-plus corpses, so Su Nan could only use some knowledge he had learned on the battlefield to hastily cover them up. As for the equipment and weapons on the Black Jade Cavalry, they were quite satisfactory. The Su family not only had the god of war Su, who shook the eastern continent, but also a mistress with a noble family background. The weapons used by the Su family's private soldiers were all of the highest quality. It was difficult for regular armies to use weapons that matched their strength levels. Soldiers' weapons were mostly one level lower than their own strength. There was no help for it. The higher the level of the weapon, the higher its value. Even an empire as strong as the Chengtian Empire found it difficult to equip the entire army with weapons of the same realm. But the Su family was incredibly wealthy. The Su family's private soldiers were all equipped with weapons matching their realm. If they were in the Ninghun realm, they used Ninghun realm weapons. Originally, there was a share for me among the swords Su Nan collected, but looking at the sword with a mysterious dark glow at my waist, Su Nan smiled bitterly in his heart. Clearly, the young master didn't need these weapons. The young master had a better sword. All right. Once you're done, let's get on the road quickly, lest they continue to chase us and cause trouble. I nodded and said indifferently. Although I currently possessed the strength of the Ranshan realm, I had less than 7 days left. In these 7 days, I had to reach Beishan County as quickly as possible and use the innate geographical advantages of that remote area to provide myself with protection. Young master, should we divert to the northern frontier to find the family head? Su Nan hesitated, then gritted his teeth and suggested in a low voice. Young master, the mistress is vicious. She actually conspired with the first prince to put you to death. We must let the family head know about this. Su Long had spent his life in battle, shaking the four seas, holding millions of brave soldiers in his hands, making countless kingdoms in the eastern continent tremble. If Su Long knew his youngest son was being hunted, the entire Qingtian Empire would be shaken. No, if my guess is correct, the road to the northern frontier is definitely filled with ambushes by experts. If we divert now, we will only be walking into a trap. I smiled and rejected the proposal. As a person from the 21st century, having lived 2 lives, my intelligence was not heaven-defying, but I was very sharp. If the roles were reversed, and I were the first prince and the stepmother, how could I not guard against myself diverting to the northern frontier to seek help from God of War Su? Moreover, if I guess correctly, it was highly likely that the Imperial capital had already begun to take action against my father. Years of planning, discarding the horse once the journey is done, stripping military power over a cup of wine. I had learned too much about such things from the history of my past life. With Su Long being so powerful, how could the Qingtian Empire not be wary? The old emperor was already aged. If the first prince wanted to stabilize his power after ascending the throne, he would definitely try to win over Su Long, this fierce dragon. If he couldn't win him over, he would certainly mobilize all means to exterminate the Su family. On this point, I saw things very clearly, but I didn't mention it to the 2 servants to avoid worrying them for nothing. Furthermore, I felt that my guess was likely very close to the truth. If that were the case, heading to Baishan County was not a bad idea, as it was undoubtedly a great opportunity for the Su family to find a way out of a desperate situation. Su Nen hesitated. He still wanted to persuade me. After all, in his eyes, Su Long was the sky. Su Long was the earth. Su Long was the omnipotent god of war. Seeking the protection of God of War Su Long was the most normal thing for the young master. Su Nen felt that even if everyone in the world betrayed me and wanted to harm me, Su Long would step forward to protect his youngest son. Because he was a tough, upright, and domineering general. He was the peerless, fierce dragon of the Eastern continent. The #1 expert of the legendary realm in the Qingtian Empire. God of War Su Long was fully qualified and capable of letting me live a carefree life. Stop talking, listen to the young master. Su Bo whispered, pulling on Su Nan's right sleeve. The old man was very sensitive. He knew that since the young master's great illness 3 years ago, my personality had changed a lot. One of those changes was that once I decided on something, no one could persuade me otherwise. Yes, young master. Su Nan sighed slightly, bowed, and then suddenly patted his head. He took something out of his bosom and handed it to me, saying, "Right, young master, this is the letter you dropped on the ground earlier." This was the letter sent by the eldest daughter of the Su family, who was far away in the Imperial capital. The Black Jade cavalryman who had been hunted down had handed it to me before he died, but it had fallen to the ground during the battle. "All right, you 2 hurry up and pack up. We're leaving here immediately." I nodded and took the letter. "Yes, young master." Su Nan and Su Bo turned to fetch the horses. I looked down, opened the envelope, and scanned it quickly. Humph, my brows furrowed tightly. As I stared at the contents of the letter, my heart was filled with raging fury. Even though I had been mentally prepared, seeing the letter from my sister still ignited a deep hatred, and my anger burned brighter and brighter. Despicable. A fine first prince indeed. Your heart to destroy me truly never dies, and your heart to harm my Su family never fades. And you actually dare to. I groaned, my deep eyes spitting out incredibly fierce, almost tangible anger. During the new book period, the old rule remains: 2 chapters a day, 1 in the morning and 1 in the evening. After the contract status is updated next week, tips will be enabled. At that time, there will be a minimum of 3 chapters, and then I will gradually increase the updates. With occasional bursts of chapters, please support Adam. Please vote. End of chapter. To my dear younger brother you. The Imperial capital is now in turmoil. A letter with elegant handwriting entered my pupils, slowly narrating her longing and worry for me, as well as a brief report on the situation in the Imperial capital. That elegant handwriting made my expressions sink into nostalgia. Vaguely, I seemed to hear the soft and gentle voice of my eldest sister, Su Huin, ringing in my ears. My guess was not wrong. The news of the old emperor's serious illness, which had been blocked by the royal family, had been released. The first prince's intention to target and suppress the Su family was no longer hidden, and his methods had become increasingly violent. starting to use any means necessary to ensure his future stable ascension to the throne. The first prince first contacted his concubine, who was the current mistress of the Su family and my stepmother, through his mother, the empress, to begin laying out his plans. The two worked in tandem, inside and out, attempting to swallow the Su family's foundation and suppress the Su family's reputation. Moreover, the first prince didn't know what method he used, but he actually made the bedridden old emperor issue an imperial decree, stripping General Su Long, who controlled millions of troops of the Qingtian Empire, of his military power and strictly ordering him to guard the northern frontier, forbidding him from leaving his post without authorization. With the Su family members all in the imperial capital, the first prince was not worried that this god of war Su, who valued family and brothers most, would not compromise. At the same time, the first prince desperately inserted his confidence into god of war Su's army. On one hand, slowly transferring the elite troops away from the northern frontier in batches, and on the other, scolding god of war Su to guard the frontier to the death. I was outraged. The first prince intended to marry both Su family beauties to seize their influence. Su Huyin, the eldest daughter, was a renowned beauty and talent in the imperial capital, beloved by many, yet she remained closest to me. Su Huimi, the second daughter, was the empire's Valkyrie, a Baisui realm peak martial prodigy at 21. Both sisters doted on me. Known as the twin pearls of Qingtian, the sisters were actually not the biological children of the Su family matriarch. They were the daughters of Su Long's fallen deputy general, raised by Su Long as his own. This lack of blood relation led the vicious stepmother to conspire with the first prince to suppress the Su family. With the god of war Su Long often away, the matriarch felt no loyalty to the family. Damn the first prince. Reading the letter, I learned Su Huyin had been forced to accept the first prince's marriage proposal to protect me. My eyes turned icy. Though I had only been in this world for 3 years, my bond with my sisters was profound. The first prince was using my life to threaten my sisters, aiming to kill me, claim the women, and weaken Su Long's military power. It was a calculated, multi-layered trap typical of the first prince's political maneuvering. Fortunately, Su Huyin was no fool. She saw through the scheme. She refused to sit idly by. The letter revealed her engagement was merely a stalling tactic to keep me safe. She had already dispatched trusted agents to the northern frontier to inform Su Long of the suppressed news. The first prince's assassination attempts on me had been thwarted by Su Huiyin's hidden network. She urged me to flee, protect myself, and contact our father. She promised that if all else failed, she and Huimi would choose death over submission to the first prince. Her words showed her unwavering faith in my hidden wisdom. However, the first prince commanded vast resources and the support of half the empire's elite. With most dukes backing him, he dominated both the military and political spheres. Knowing the odds, Su Huiyin's primary wish was for me to survive and preserve the Su bloodline. Her final words made me tremble. I sensed a deep, unspoken affection in her vow. I won't let that scoundrel have us. Su Huyin was gentle, but I knew her stubborn, resilient core. I feared that if pushed too far, she would choose suicide to preserve her honor. The thought made me shudder. I refused to let her face such a tragic end. She was in the prime of her life. In my mind, I saw her approaching me, her touch soft upon my cheek. Her beauty and gentle gaze were etched into my memory, filled with silent, desperate concern. Though I couldn't hear her, I felt her anxiety from across the empire. Sister, my eyes flashed with cold intent. Clutching the letter, I whispered, only 1 year left. Even with my temporary Ranshan realm strength, I couldn't storm the capital yet. I knew that appearing there now would invite certain death from the prince's hidden masters. I swear, within a year, I will lead an army to surround the capital and save you both. My grip tightened, my eyes burning with lethal resolve. I had to build my own power to protect those I loved. My father, the god of war, was currently trapped in his own predicament. If Su Long knew, his impulsive nature would lead him to rebel, playing right into the first prince's hands. Such a move would cost him his reputation and the support of the empire. It would be an unwise, suicidal path for the Su family. I remained calm, my mind racing to formulate a long-term plan. I was awakening. My ambition was far greater than mere revenge. I sought a total victory, intending to crush my enemies with overwhelming strength. Like a wounded beast, I prepared for a thunderous strike. The first prince's pressure had only ignited the dormant, indomitable blood within me. They would soon realize they had awakened a powerful lord. One day, the world would know that a wastrel could shake the very heavens. "Young master," Sunan said, leading 3 fire cloud horses over. I composed myself, pocketed the letter, and commanded, "Let's move." The trio rode toward Beishan County. The fire cloud horses were incredibly fast, far superior to any ordinary steed. After a day and a half of riding, they reached Baiyang City, a prosperous, peaceful town under the empire. The first prince had kept his actions against the Su family secret to maintain his image. Su Huayi's hidden influence and the interference of her admirers had made the prince's situation difficult. Consequently, the prince had yet to deploy assassins to the regions near the capital, including Baiyang City. The trio stopped at a tavern on the outskirts of Baiyang. Subo opened the door for me, while Su Nan went to tether the horses. Honored guests." The elderly tavern owner, seeing the refined me, hurried forward with a welcoming smile. The tavern, previously filled with rowdy laborers, fell silent as I entered. The patrons looked on, feeling suddenly inferior. Dressed in white robes, I looked like an immortal. Why would someone of my status stop at such a humble tavern? Though curious, the locals knew their place in the Four Directions continent and dared not question a noble, choosing instead to drink in silence. Sensing the shift in atmosphere, I sighed and asked the tavern boss for tea and food. Currently in the Ranshan realm, I was unfazed by the journey, but Su Bo and Su Nin were exhausted, necessitating a rest before entering the city. "Young master, your tea." Su Bo carefully removed debris from the tea before respectfully serving me. He knew I preferred clean, fragrant tea, and had even searched for a spiritual herb called tea leaves 2 years prior. "Times have changed, and I am sorry you must drink such coarse brew," Su Bo lamented. I thanked him with a smile. I accepted the cup gracefully. Having endured much in my past life, this simple tea was nothing. I wasn't truly a wastrel. My reputation as a useless playboy stemmed from my inability to practice martial arts and my penchant for odd hobbies. Compared to other nobles, I was actually a talented youth, if one overlooked my eccentricities. In terms of wit and perspective, I was peerless. Even the brilliant Miss Ween of the Imperial capital was often stumped by my questions. I smiled at the memory of those brain teasers, finding the bitter tea suddenly sweet. Just then, a pale, ragged girl of about 16 entered, followed by a thin young man in a vest. The girl carried a battered, yet meticulously maintained, lute-like instrument. The young man set up a stool, and the girl sat down. Her delicate fingers plucked the strings, releasing a haunting melody. She sang a melancholic folk song of the Qingtian Empire with grace. I, who had been deep in thought, opened my eyes, intrigued. I studied the girl. She was thin and pale from malnutrition. Though not a peerless beauty, her starry eyes were captivating. What struck me most was her music. Unlike the professional performers at the Su Prince's estate, her song touched my heart. Given my refined taste from 2 lifetimes of musical exposure, I was a harsh critic. I smiled, tapping my finger to the rhythm. Interesting. Su Nan, drinking his ale, looked at the girl with confusion. "It sounds average to me," he thought, returning to his meat and drink. The regulars, accustomed to the performance, lowered their voices to listen. The young man walked among the tables with a basin for tips, which remained mostly empty. They were silent, moving from table to table without begging. They were clearly destitute street performers. When the boy reached my table, Su Bo tried to shoo him away, but I intervened, offering a tip. The boy was thin, dirty, and guarded. Su Bo sighed and tossed a gold coin into the basin. As the last heir of the Su Prince's estate, my status remained, regardless of my exile. Money was no object. Su Bo carried gold notes worth tens of thousands of gold coins. Su Bo remained stoic, though he recalled my past lavishness in the capital. The boy, however, was stunned. A single gold coin was worth a fortune, enough to support a family for months. The coin clattered into the basin, drawing everyone's attention. The tavern went silent. The golden glimmer dazzled the patrons. In the Four Directions continent, Gold coins were the exclusive currency of the nobility. The crowd gasped in shock. Someone had actually tipped a gold coin. Whispers broke out. A gold coin. He must be a true noble. That's half a year's living expenses. Look at his attire and grace. Scholar Chung would call it elegant and refined. Young Ling is lucky. Most would have begged to be taken in. Is he from the Imperial capital? Maybe, or from another major city. Only a high noble would tip like that. The crowd speculated wildly about my origins. I chuckled inwardly. If they knew I was the heir to the Su family, the first noble of the Qingtian Empire, they would be terrified. Ignoring the gossip, I asked, "Is that your sister?" The boy looked wary but nodded, rasping, "Thank you, sir." As the boy walked away, Sunan looked at me, questioning if he should discipline the boy for his lack of deference. I just smiled and continued listening to the music. I, possessing the magnanimity of a true superior, appreciated the young girl's exquisite song. I found the elegant melody in this small town unexpectedly refreshing. The girl and boy began packing up immediately after one song, showing a commendable lack of intrusion. I grew fond of them. It wasn't romantic interest, but rather the soothing, clear quality of the girl's voice and melody that pleased me. Suddenly, a loud crash erupted. The door was kicked open by a group of fierce men wielding weapons, who surrounded the two performers. The tavern owner, terrified, rushed forward to apologize, claiming he had already paid his monthly protection money. He bowed obsequiously to the leader, his forehead slick with sweat. Watching a man in his 60s grovel highlighted the harsh, unstable reality for commoners in the Four Directions continent. I clearly saw the raw fear in the old man's eyes. The tavern patrons lowered their heads, too intimidated to even look at the thugs. These commoners lacked the courage to intervene. The leader, a man with a hideous scar on his right cheek, stood out. He shoved the old man aside, growling that he wasn't there for him. The old man scrambled away, nursing his pain in silence. The scarred man turned to the performers, accusing them of stealing a bracelet from the Ling family. He pointed his club at the girl, his tone aggressive. I suspected there was more to this than simple theft. I noticed the scarred man's predatory, greedy gaze fixed intently on the girl. Bullying and false accusations were common in the capital, let alone in these outskirts. The girl looked frightened but lacked the guilty panic of a thief. "We didn't steal anything," she denied. The boy stepped in front of her, glaring at the scarred man. The man sneered at their defiance. He claimed the Ling family young master's bracelet went missing, and since the girl worked for the main household, she was the obvious scapegoat. He demanded the location of the bracelet with a menacing expression. Nearby patrons trembled, terrified by the confrontation. They whispered that Lord Hu was a notorious martial artist of the Mingji realm, and the boy was doomed. They lamented the siblings' plight, noting that even the local coffin shops refused to sell to them for their parents' burials. They cursed Lord Hu for bullying the weak, noting the boy might have been a martial artist himself if not for his parents' early deaths. They blamed the Ling family for suppressing their own kin and Lord Hu for acting as their lackey. Fearing retaliation, they quickly hushed their complaints. The patrons watched with a mix of pity and terror. The boy stood firm, insisting his sister was innocent. Lord Hu demanded either 10 gold coins or the girl as compensation. His roar left the farmer's ears ringing. The boy realized that if his sister were taken to the Ling estate, she would be ruined. He resolved to protect her. The boy offered to pay, but Lord Hu demanded an exorbitant 10 gold coins, a price the boy called robbery. Lord Hu snatched the boy's collection bowl, spotting a single gold coin among the copper. Realizing the coin was worth far more than his commission, his greed flared. He pocketed the gold and demanded the rest or the girl. When the boy refused to surrender his sister, Lord Hu attacked. The boy was sent flying by a strike, vomiting blood and unable to rise. The girl cried out, rushing to his side. She tried to support him, weeping bitterly. Lord Hu mocked the fallen boy and moved to seize the girl. He reached out, his true intent clear. The bracelet and money were merely pretexts for his abduction. "Wait." A calm voice interrupted just as his hand neared her. Lord Hu spun around in a rage. Everyone in the tavern looked toward my table. I sat calmly, sipping tea while watching Lord Hu. My deep, mysterious eyes seemed to peer straight into Lord Hu's soul. 2 years ago, at the Imperial capital's poetry pavilion, Others had mocked me as a waste in front of my sister, Miss Ween. They had urged her to stop bringing her useless brother to social gatherings. Miss Ween had defended me, silencing the crowd. She declared that anyone who insulted her brother would be forced to crawl out of the Imperial capital forever. Her tone was gentle, yet carried an undeniable, iron-willed authority. The young scholars had turned pale, silenced by her presence. Later, at Sword Cliff, other heavenly prides had surrounded me, mocking me for being a martial arts failure. They claimed I was a disgrace to my sister and that she would never see me. They sought to humiliate me to curry favor with the first prince. I had stood my ground, facing them with calm indifference. Suddenly, a sound pierced the air. A green sword descended from the sky, embedding itself into the ground before the arrogant crowd. A graceful figure in green robes descended from the void, her hair flowing in the wind. Su Huimi's cold voice echoed before she appeared. Is my sword not sharp enough? From today on, only I are permitted to enter Sword Cliff. Get out. As long as I live, no one shall bully me, not even the heavens. Her domineering shout rumbled like thunder across the sky. The capital's young elites trembled, paralyzed by her overwhelming power, unable to face the Su family's Valkyrie. I still cherished the memory of my two sisters' deep affection. Their every word remained etched in my mind, a source of constant inspiration. Though the world called me trash, they never abandoned me. Now, it was my turn to protect them. The young man's attempt to shield his sister moved me. He lacked the strength to protect his sibling, but his loyalty made him worthy of my help. I sighed as Lord Hu eyed me with wary suspicion. Recognizing the boy's noble attire, Lord Hu hesitated to provoke me. That gold coin is mine, I said with a smile. Sunin stood, brandishing his blade as his Gyuti realm aura surged. My young master says that coin was a gift to this lad. Lord Hu's scarred face paled, his hands trembling as he realized the threat. The crowd gasped. That one-armed man is a Gyuti realm expert. Only the Ling family's young master could match him. What kind of status does this noble boy have to command such a servant? The tavern patrons stared in shock, their focus shifting between Su Nan and me. It was clear the powerful warrior was merely a servant to the smiling noble. The room fell into stunned silence. Su Nan gripped his blade, his battle-hardened aura radiating lethal intent. The killing intent was palpable. In Baiyang City, a Gyuti realm expert was a rare, formidable force. Su Nan drew his blade, pointing it at Lord Hu. The weapon was a high-grade Ninghun realm blade, marked with the Su family crest. Lord Hu sweated profusely, his eyes locked on the superior weapon. He regretted leaving his own steel behind, realizing his wooden club was pathetic by comparison. Well, are you keeping that coin? Hand it over. Su Nan stepped forward. I didn't know it was yours, my lord. Terrified, Lord Hu scurried forward and placed the coin on my table. I didn't rise, merely glancing at him. Su Bo, tend to the boy's wounds. Su Bo nodded, retrieving a military-grade healing salve. Let me help, little one. Su Bo said gently to the girl. The girl wept with gratitude, thanking me. Such kindness in their darkest hour was beyond words. Without me, they would have faced a tragic end. To the girl, my smile was the most beautiful thing she had ever seen. My lord, Lord Hu stammered. I am acting on behalf of the Ling family to catch these thieves. He tried to use the Ling family to pressure me. He was desperate to fulfill his contract and collect his pay. He hoped the Ling name would intimidate the noble. Su Nan looked to me for orders. A mere word from me would make the entire city tremble. I chuckled, standing up and grabbing a small money bag. By the Empire's laws, you have no authority to arrest anyone. Does the Ling family own Baiyang City? I watched him calmly. Lord Hu braced himself, but my next move shocked him. I'm a reasonable man. Let's follow the rules of the road. I dumped the bag. Dozens of gold coins clattered onto the floor. Consider this payment for the bracelet, provided you can actually take them. I spoke as if the gold were worthless copper. The room went silent. The crowd stared, breathless at the fortune that could secure a lifetime of luxury. Lord Hu's eyes turned bloodshot with greed. He and his men were mesmerized by the gold. Only the fear of Su Nan kept Lord Hu's remaining sanity intact. Are you serious? He rasped. Can I really take these? I keep my word. If you can pick them up and leave, they are yours. My smile widened. Lord Hu thought, I'll take the money, flee the city, and the Ling family can't touch me. Overcome by greed, he abandoned all caution. Then I won't be polite. Lord Hu dove for the coins as the crowd watched with intense envy. They cursed their luck for not being the ones to encounter such a generous noble. They failed to notice the cold, calculating glint in my eyes. My gold isn't so easily taken. The girl watched me, her eyes filled with newfound curiosity. The girl worried about the debt she owed the man for scattering so much gold, fearing her stubborn brother would be furious upon waking. She bit her lip, her face etched with distress. Her brother's temperament was a constant source of headache. I ignored her entirely. I stood by the gold, watching Lord Hu was frantically scrambling on the floor. Gold. So much gold, it's all mine. Lord Hu trembled, his expression twisted with manic greed as he clawed at the coins. His henchmen exchanged greedy glances, unable to resist the temptation. They rushed forward, shouting, "Lord Hu, we'll help you pick them up. Get lost. Touch my gold, and I'll kill you." Lord Hu roared, clutching coins in one hand and a wooden club in the other. Though unskilled, his Mingji realm strength easily drove the cowering henchmen away. The henchmen retreated, terrified by Lord Hu's bloodshot eyes and savage demeanor. To them, it was clear, stealing from Lord Hu meant death. Every martial artist on the Four Directions continent pursued their own path, the foundation of their martial Dao origin. Some lived for beauty, power, family, or country. Low-level fighters like Lord Hu lived for money. He discarded his club, stuffing dozens of coins into his robes. "These are mine. Don't even think about it." Glaring at his men, he stood up and marched toward the tavern exit. He dreamed of finding a safe place to plan his future. He decided to leave Baiyang City for Nanjun, a peaceful land famous for its beautiful women. Lost in fantasy, he failed to notice my mocking smirk. As he reached the door, I tapped my true Emperor's sword. The sword flew out like a streak of light, its scabbard slamming into Lord Hu's hands with precise force. Arg! Lord Hu's hands swelled instantly, sending the coins flying back into the room. The crowd gasped. "Who did that?" Lord Hu roared, turning to face me. "You want to teach me a lesson?" I smiled, the sword hovering silently beside me. My God! Sword control. That's the power of a Baishui realm expert. The onlookers were stunned. Even the farmers realized the gravity of the situation. They had thought the guard was strong, but this young master was on another level. Even the city lord of Baiyang was only at the Baishui realm. How could someone so young reach such heights? Lord Hu's pupils constricted. A Baishui realm expert. "But, you said if I picked them up, they were mine," he stammered, sweating profusely. He trembled, his legs shaking in the presence of a master 2 major realms above his own. A Mingji realm rookie couldn't survive a single strike from a Baishui expert. I chuckled. "My word stands. If you can carry them out of this tavern, they are yours." Lord Hu hesitated, heart racing, terrified of being stopped again. "Don't worry," I added with a smile. "I'm not a killer. I won't kill you." Reassured, Lord Hu decided to risk it. If he was fast enough, he could win. He lunged for the coins, scooping them up and sprinting toward the exit. He moved with incredible speed, but I flicked my finger. The sword flashed, striking his hands again. Arg! Lord Hu screamed as his hands swelled further, blood trickling down. Even with me holding back, the force was unbearable. "Keep going," I smiled. Lord Hu roared, driven by madness. He didn't dare attack me, but he refused to give up. His mind was completely consumed by greed. He tried again, attempting to jump through a window, but the sword struck him down repeatedly. 10 times he tried. 10 times he failed, his screams echoing through the tavern. He had exhausted every trick, yet the gold remained out of reach. The crowd watched in silence, realizing I was simply toying with him. They trembled, watching Lord Hu's hands swell into mangled, sausage-like lumps. It was a torture worse than death. "If you can take them out, they're yours." The words now sounded like a cruel curse. Lord Hu was broken, his face pale with agony. His hands were numb, fingers swollen and caked in dried blood. He began to question his entire existence. The once feared bully of Baiyang City was now nothing more than a pathetic, cowering rat. He collapsed, curled into a ball. His eyes were filled with nothing but confusion and terror. "Want to try again?" I sipped my tea. "Need more?" I can add more money. I tossed several gold notes worth thousands onto the floor. Same rules. My voice sounded like a demon's. Don't worry, I won't kill you. I don't like bullying the weak. The punishment was far worse than death, dangling wealth before him, only to crush his hands whenever he reached for it. I would break him until he learned his lesson. I would break him until he never dared to be greedy again. Lord who collapsed to his knees, tears streaming down his face. No more. I won't touch it. Please, spare me. My hands, they're ruined. He wailed, kowtowing repeatedly to me. The fierce man cried like a child, a truly pitiable sight. His henchmen shook with fear, some even losing control of their bladders. In that moment, I taught the bullies of Bayang City a lesson they would never forget. Giving up? What a pity. You should have tried harder. Don't you love money? Perhaps luck would have favored you. I sighed with a gentle, elegant smile, my demeanor calm and composed. I wouldn't dare. Young master, please spare me. I'll never be greedy or target the Ling siblings again. Lord who wept, kowtowing until his forehead bled. Please, treat me like a fart and let me go. I'll leave Bayang City immediately. Lord who cared nothing for money now. His only desire was to escape this smiling devil. Lord who was broken, his spirit crushed by fear. To a martial artist, this psychological defeat was worse than death. The onlookers were shocked by my ruthless efficiency. Defeating a martial artist is easy, but breaking their spirit is rare. Su Bo and Su Nin watched me with complex expressions. As servants of the Su Prince's mansion who grew up with me, they were highly sensitive to my subtle changes. Su Nin felt a mix of excitement and complexity. He saw a shadow of the god of war Su in his master, the domineering nature of the Su family. More importantly, I possessed a masterful control over the situation, identifying and exploiting weaknesses regardless of the enemy's strength, a trait even the god of war lacked. Su Bo felt a sense of relief. After 20 years, the young master had finally awakened from his lethargy. I was beginning to show my true potential, the mark of a true Su descendant. Su Bo sensed that my future achievements might even rival the two Su ladies. Was I a fool or a waste? No, I had simply chosen not to compete until now. With me finally serious, nothing was an obstacle. Su Bo and Su Nin felt a surge of confidence. The 20-year wait had not been in vain. Their master had merely been slumbering. Lord whose wails and the blood on the tavern floor marked the beginning of my rise. Enough. Get out, I said calmly. Lord who scrambled away, not even daring to call his subordinates, fleeing the tavern in a panic. The crowd erupted in cheers, praising the young hero's righteousness and power. As Lord who fled, the tavern patrons looked at me with newfound worship. I acknowledged them with a faint, indifferent smile, already embodying the grace of a true noble. Young master, should I follow him? Su Nin asked coldly, making a throat-slitting gesture. In war, one must cut the weeds and dig up the roots. Mercy is a liability. Su Nin believed that as a noble, I had the authority to execute such trash for the sake of the city. No, let him go. He still has a purpose. I wanted to use Lord Hu to intimidate the Ling family main house. A powerhouse appearing to protect the Ling siblings would deter the main house from further bullying. Since I was helping, I would do it thoroughly by addressing the root of the problem. Killing Lord Hu was useless. Keeping him alive as a messenger was better. A broken Mingji realm martial artist was no threat to me, who existed on a different level entirely. Lord Hu's subordinates fled in terror, following their leader out of the tavern. They had arrived with arrogance and left in disgrace, a testament to life's unpredictability. The gold coins lay untouched until Su Nin collected them. I gestured, and the true Emperor's sword returned to my waist, having never been unsheathed. The true Emperor's sword remained hidden throughout the entire ordeal, its true form unseen by any. The tavern patrons watched me, still reeling from the shock. For commoners, seeing a Baishui realm expert was a rare event, yet one stood right before them. Had Lord Hu not appeared, they would never have guessed that the man drinking tea with them was a powerful, noble figure. They felt honored to have witnessed such a righteous and powerful display, eager to brag about it later. They felt a vicarious sense of pride, as if they themselves had been the ones to act. It's all clear now. Su Bo smiled at the young girl and patted the arm of the waking Ling boy, offering quiet instructions. Subo returned to me as the Ling siblings approached with their belongings. Thanks to the Su Prince's mansion's medicine, the boy would recover quickly and even gain unexpected benefits. "Thank you for saving my brother, young master," the girl said, her voice filled with gratitude. Her voice was clear and ethereal, washing over the listeners like a soothing melody. Under my gaze, the girl blushed and lowered her head, appearing shy and delicate. Despite her ragged clothes, her natural grace left those watching in a trance. She clearly held deep admiration for her benefactor. The boy's cold expression thawed slightly. "It was nothing," I replied with a smile. My elegant demeanor and deep eyes captivated the girl, making her heart race. The boy picked up a gold coin from the floor. "Hey, what are you doing?" Sunin was stunned as the boy pocketed the coin, showing no intention of returning it. "That's my young master's money. Give it back," Sunin barked. "I earned this reward with my own effort. Why should I return it?" the boy retorted coldly. I chuckled, amused by the boy's stubborn personality. Sunin was left speechless, laughing in frustration. Before Sunin could react, the boy bowed to me. "Thank you for your help. If I, Lingyu, ever succeed, I will repay this debt." With that, he dragged his sister away, leaving the tavern in stunned silence. Lingyu was known as a stubborn ox in Baiyang City. He refused to bow even to a clear benefactor. "Brother, why are you in such a rush? He helped us, and I don't even know his name," the girl complained. Her voice carried a hint of regret. "Honor, the world is complex. Even if he is kind, staying would invite rumors. I may be poor, but I am no sycophant." The boy's voice was firm, filled with pride. "But brother," their voices faded as they hurried away. Lingyu was indeed exceptionally stubborn. "Young master, those brats are so rude," Sunan frowned. "It's fine, let them be," I replied, unbothered. I had acted out of righteousness and expected no repayment from the poor siblings. If fate allows, they shall meet again. I admired the boy's backbone more than the girl's delicate charm. Poverty did not necessitate bowing to others. The boy was a man of character. After the siblings left, I, Sunan, and Subo paid their bill and headed into the city. I compensated the tavern boss with an extra gold coin for the earlier disturbance caused by Lord Hu. This gesture drew admiring gazes, with many bystanders silently wishing to follow me. I departed calmly. Sunan, riding ahead, finally asked why I had been so generous. The straightforward Su-nin felt compelled to voice his confusion. He viewed the extra coin as a waste, knowing I wasn't typically a spendthrift. "It's about cultivating goodwill and ensuring future peace," I replied, adding that it was linked to an upcoming task. I smiled nonchalantly. Sunan, though surprised, straightened up and pledged his obedience. "No rush," I said. "Let's enter the city first." The trio entered Baiyang City on foot, heading toward a specific destination. Beyond gathering supplies, I had a crucial person to visit. I sought General Yang, a noble and retired veteran who had served under the god of war Su for 19 years. The general was a local legend in Baiyang City, renowned for his loyal service in the northern frontier. As a staunch loyalist to the Su prince's estate, General Yang was the perfect person to visit for both respect and news regarding my father. At the Yang mansion, guards challenged them. I stepped forward, introducing myself with a polite smile, honoring the general's past service. Upon hearing Su from the Imperial capital, the guard's expression shifted, and he rushed to report. I nodded, knowing the name carried weight. Despite retiring a year ago, the general remained highly respected in the city. Soon, a group emerged, led by a vigorous man in his 50s. General Yang, a Baisui Realm Tier 3 expert, looked far younger than his years. The general hurried out, scanning the area. He immediately spotted the elegant, smiling me. "Young master," the general exclaimed, rushing forward in excitement. He knelt on one knee, bowing deeply. "General Yang, reporting to the young master." His loud, booming voice shocked everyone present. I, though physically frail and lacking martial talent, was deeply beloved by my father's subordinates. The title, Young Master, had originated from the army itself, where I was widely known. "Greetings, young master," the crowd echoed. The entire household, including the private soldiers, knelt in unison. Hundreds of people bowed with military precision, creating an awe-inspiring scene. It was clear the general maintained strict discipline. Onlookers were stunned by the sight. The street fell silent as the crowd gasped in shock. The bystanders watched in disbelief, unable to process the scene. They wondered who this young man was to command such reverence from the city's hero. Curiosity swept through the crowd. What identity could possibly warrant such a grand display of respect? Everyone began speculating about my background. I quickly moved to help the general up. Laughing, the general led me inside, claiming he knew a guest of honor was coming. As the gates closed, the public's view was cut off. The crowd remained desperate to know the young man's identity. They concluded that a major figure had arrived in Bayong City. The general escorted me to the main hall, chatting warmly along the way. Since it was still morning, they settled into the hall for conversation. The general's presence kept the household staff from intruding. I took a moment to send Su Nan and Su Bo away on an errand. "Why send your men away so soon?" the general asked. He was direct, as was common among military men. Given the close ties between the two houses, he spoke freely. "I'm having them recruit followers," I explained, "to help me manage Blackstone County. I wanted to prepare for my new role as a lord as early as possible. Recruiting men was a primary reason for my visit. I needed the influence of the Sioux Prince's estate to attract loyal followers. Blackstone County, a lord." The general slammed the table in anger. That damned first prince finally made his move. The servants trembled, but the general dismissed them before turning back to me. "Did that bastard really force you out of the capital?" the general growled, his fists clenched. "You were aware of this?" I asked calmly. The general sighed, explaining that the old general had warned him the first prince might target the Sioux family. I remained silent, confirming the prince's obvious hostility. "We knew he was plotting, but I didn't expect him to act so soon, or to target you first," the general lamented. He frowned deeply. Suddenly, the general stiffened, asking urgently, "The first prince, he won't try to harm you, will he?" "Yes, he sent assassins to kill me, but I eliminated them." I nodded, anticipating General Yang's next question. The first prince had gone too far. To assassinate a scion of the Sioux prince's estate, after decades of the Sioux family's loyal service, was an unforgivable insult. The God of War's prestige is unmatched. The first prince has finally lost his patience. "But tell me, young master, how did you kill them? Have you begun cultivating?" General Yang looked at me with eager anticipation. "I have just started, so my strength is still modest," I replied with a smile, careful not to reveal my Ranshan realm cultivation to avoid shocking the general. A 20-year-old in the Ranshan realm would be far too sensational. "Excellent. The old general will be thrilled to hear this." General Yang beamed, genuinely happy for me. "I almost forgot. Military advisor Nian sent a letter for you some time ago." General Yang retrieved a letter from his cabinet and handed it to me. "I truly admire the advisor. Her foresight is divine. She predicted you would come here even when I doubted it." I took the fragrant envelope, recognizing the elegant handwriting of Nian Xingyi, my Aunt Nian. Nian Xingyi was the most significant woman in the Sioux prince's estate, having been by my side since I was an infant. Though rumored to be the God of War's concubine, she was actually a loyal maid to my mother, dedicated solely to protecting me. She served as both Miss Huayan's tutor and my personal attendant. I was the only person she truly cared for, even above the God of War. When I was labeled a waste at 10, Nian Xingyi joined the military, rising to become the chief military advisor to the God of War within 3 years. She orchestrated legendary victories, including the rout of the Northern Frontier Wolf Cavalry and forcing the Orc Empire to sign a peace treaty. Before her, the God of War suffered heavy losses despite his victories. Nian Xingyi changed everything, maintaining the northern frontier for a decade with 0 casualties. She completely outmaneuvered the Orc Empire, rendering them unable to even launch an offensive. Hailed as the smartest woman on the eastern continent, she remained unmarried, hiding a gentle heart behind her brilliant strategic mind. I remembered her promise. Don't be afraid. Even if the world calls you a waste, I will ensure you live a life without worry." Her brilliance was entirely dedicated to securing my status. She wanted the world to know that I was backed by both the God of War and the brilliant military advisor Nian. She proved that even a waste held a status higher than any arrogant genius. Please support and share this story. Aunt Nian. I shook off my melancholy and read the letter. Nian Xingyi had anticipated the first prince's schemes and correctly predicted I would seek refuge in Baiyang City. Her prediction was spot on. The god of war was aware of my plight, but, urged by Nian, remained at the front to hold back the orcs. She advised me to fortify Blackstone County against future threats. She warned that the danger was deeper than it appeared, with the first prince's actions putting the entire Su family on the brink of ruin. She also revealed a grim truth. While the god of war defeated the Orc Empire's 8 legends, he was severely wounded. Investigations suggested the first prince had manipulated the orcs into attacking. If the god of war fell, I would be left defenseless. The first prince only hesitated to send more assassins because he still feared the god of war's remaining strength. The prince was slowly wearing the god of war down. Despite the danger, Nian was most concerned for me. She had departed for the Imperial capital to confront the first prince directly. She hoped to stall the prince and buy the Su family time to recover. She also promised to keep the Su sisters safe. The letter was filled with her deep affection and concern for me. I could almost see her gentle expression as I read. Aunt Nian, I'm not a child anymore, I whispered with a bitter smile. I folded the letter and tucked it away. With Nian Qingyi managing the situation in the capital, I felt a sense of relief. Between Nian's intellect, Miss Huiyin's wisdom, Su Huimi's strength, and the Black Jade Cavalry, the Su family remained a formidable force. Despite her hidden worries, I was confident that if I could gain time to grow, I would emerge the victor. Uncle Yang, I have a question. I asked, did my father clash with the 8 legends of the Orc Empire recently? You didn't know? It's the latest news. General Yang was surprised. I admitted I had been too busy fleeing to keep up with the news. I had been completely cut off from intelligence. Half a month ago, the 8 legends led 1,000,000 orcs to besiege the city. The old general fought them alone, wounding all 8 and forcing the army to retreat. It was the most dangerous battle in 20 years, the general sighed. It was a probe by the orcs, I noted firmly. Indeed, if the general had fallen, the orcs would have invaded the empire. The general laughed. But the general is invincible. I only regret I've retired. Otherwise, I'd be there with him. I smiled silently. The general didn't know about the god of war's injuries. A secret Nian had wisely kept to prevent the 8 legends from returning. I wondered at the first prince's madness, provoking the orcs just to secure the throne, even at the risk of the empire's collapse. Power had clearly blinded him. I sighed, feeling that there was still a deeper, darker layer to this conspiracy I hadn't yet grasped. The current situation leaves me with only one path, relying on myself. If I develop Haishi County well, it could become the Su family's new stronghold, giving me the leverage to confront the first prince directly. I urgently need my own power base, so I have tasked Su Bo and Su Nan with recruiting followers outside the city. Population is the foundation of everything. With an army of 8 million, I could make the eastern continent tremble. While personal strength is vital, I must also build my influence. My headache is that Haishi County is the Changtian Empire's poorest, most backward region. How can I turn it into a foundation within a year? As I pondered, General Yang slapped his forehead, laughing. I'm getting old and forgetful. I almost missed this. I looked up, puzzled. Young master, Haishi County is notoriously impoverished and stubborn. Being on the border, it's a lawless, neglected zone that's difficult to manage. General Yang stroked his beard. However, the strategist already ordered me to provide you with 3,000 private soldiers. If you need more, I can add 1,000 house servants. I was stunned, then overjoyed, standing up to bow. Uncle Yang, I am deeply grateful for your kindness. I had been worried about how to start in such a desolate, stubborn region. Even with the system, the beginning is like a game starting with only 3 peasants. Without troops or supplies, I would have been helpless in Haishi County. General Yang's support is a timely gift that saves me from a hell difficulty start. Haha, no need to thank me. The old general saved my life multiple times. My life belongs to the Su Prince's mansion. I couldn't just watch you go alone. General Yang chuckled. Also, money is useless in such a remote place. I'll provide 3 tons of fresh grain and several carts of supplies to help you get started. I was deeply moved by the general's generosity. With this support, the difficulty of my mission is significantly reduced. Uncle Yang, your help today is a lifesaver. I will never forget it. I felt truly touched. My father's loyal subordinates are truly reliable. As a count, the general is allowed 5,000 private soldiers, and he gave away 3,000 without hesitation. Young master, don't say that. When we visited the Sioux Prince's mansion years ago, we promised that if the old general retired, we would follow you. General Yang sighed. Sadly, my brothers are dead or crippled, and I've retired. I can only provide these meager resources. Then I won't be modest. To our health. I toasted with tea. General Yang smiled. If you like wine, I'll host a banquet at Wangdong Tower tonight to welcome you. I laughed, knowing I couldn't refuse the hospitality of my father's old men. I couldn't let these veterans down. Wait a moment, young master. General Yang whispered to a servant. Soon, a sturdy, determined-looking young man entered the hall. He wore heavy black armor, reminiscent of the Black Jade cavalry, but thicker. The young man had a youthful face, but a firm, resolute gaze. This is my son, Yang Mingwei. You need someone to lead those 3,000 soldiers, so I'm placing him under your command. Please, train him well. General Yang introduced him with a smile. This was the general's only son. Since confirming I could cultivate, the general had made this decision. As long as I can cultivate, the Sioux Prince's mansion has hope. It was only natural for his son to follow the young master. I felt conflicted, fearing I couldn't offer the young man a bright future. I didn't know whether to accept. Yang Mingwei's posture and aura already showed the potential of a fine general. I wanted him, but didn't want to ruin his career. Mingwei could easily become an officer in the Imperial capital instead of rotting in Haishi County. Before I could speak, Mingwei stepped forward. Young master, my father taught me that the Sioux family is everything. My family's 3,000 soldiers are ready to fight for you. I may be young, but I am no coward. I am willing to shed blood. Do you dare accept me? Mingwei, watch your tone, the general barked. The boy was being too blunt. Despite the reprimand, Mingwei's gaze remained sharp and defiant, fixed on me. My hesitation clearly disappointed him. I looked at him. I'm just afraid you won't survive the hardship. Your father fought for 19 years, of 5,000 men. Only he survived. Do you know how difficult my path is? The Sioux Prince's mansion is on thin ice. I fear your spear will break before we reach the peak. My words struck the general like a hammer. He trembled at the sheer ambition and resolve in my voice. Mingwei laughed. I am a man of the Yang family. I fear no death. If you are my lord, my spear will not break. I fear nothing. Why do you? Mingwei's voice was loud and resolute, his aura surging. Following a true lord was his life's ambition. You brat. General Yang sighed, torn between pride and frustration. He loved his son's spirit, but worried his bluntness would offend me. Are you truly not afraid? I asked with a smile. My spear is my witness. No matter how hard the path, I will carve a way for you. Even if I die, the loyalty of the Yang family will not fade. Mingwei spoke with unwavering conviction, staring straight into my eyes. I nodded, feigning seriousness. Very well. If I refuse now, I would be unworthy of being a leader. So you accept me? Mingwei beamed. Yes, I smiled. I realized I had just recruited a simple, impulsive, yet loyal youth. Had I accepted too quickly, Mingwei might not have been truly convinced, given my long-standing reputation as a waste throughout the empire. My calculated display of restraint successfully bolstered Yang Mingwei's loyalty. Having witnessed my actions firsthand, Yang Mingwei realized the rumors of me being a waste were unfounded. No longer doubting his decision, General Yang urged, Foolish boy, pay your respects to the young master. Yang Mingwei snapped out of his reverie, his face lighting up with newfound resolve. He knelt on one knee, declaring solemnly, I, Yang Mingwei, swear by the Yang mansion to serve me as my lord. Wherever you point your blade, I shall follow. I am invincible, and I shall never tire of battle. I laughed heartily. The system chimed. Congratulations on recruiting your first native general. You have earned one lottery draw. The general is rated as a good general. View his detailed attributes in your lord profile. I took a quiet breath after recruiting my first native general, already thinking about the next move. The system panel still glowed in my mind. One lottery draw. Not bad for a day's work. I opened my Lord profile. Name, Suyu. Age, 20. Race, human. Territory, none. Lord level, 0. Strength, for Directions Continent. Peak Ranshan Realm, 5 days remaining. Public support energy, 0. Talents, skills, legion, none. Lord Servant, Yang Mingwei. Other options, locked. Servant details, name, Yang Mingwei. Age, 19. Race, human. Loyalty, 98/100. Quality, good general. Strength, peak Ninghun Realm. Skills, Yang Mansion Spear/Internal Arts. I was impressed. Reaching the peak Ninghun Realm at 19 was exceptional. Such talent rivaled the geniuses of the Imperial capital. His good general rating was expected. The system ranks generals from common, good, brave, famous, fierce, divine, to saint. While Yang Mingwei's current rank is modest, his youth offers immense growth potential. With the system's future cultivation features, his quality will skyrocket, unlocking new talents and skills. To obtain high-quality generals quickly, I would need to recruit a legendary master skilled in strategy or warfare. Otherwise, I must upgrade my territory to unlock the potential alter or summon generals from other planes. The latter method could potentially yield legendary figures. I could summon Li Jing, commander of celestial soldiers, Sun Wukong, the great sage, or the valiant Zhao Zilong, all divine generals, or the brilliant strategist Zhuge Liang, divine, and the iron-willed Dian Wei, fierce. The myriad realms offer endless possibilities, provided I establish a territory. I pondered these functions. Mistaking my silence for fatigue, General Yang offered to let me rest while Yang Mingwei prepared 3,000 soldiers and supplies. I agreed, thanking them. I needed solitude to test the system's capabilities. After a brief exchange, I insisted Yang Mingwei call me young master instead of lord, emphasizing our bond. I followed a servant to a side room. General Yang instructed Yang Mingwei to select the elite soldiers from the family's private guard. In the guest room, I held a small, glowing pill. It was the Eternal Marrow Cleansing Pill, a treasure from the ancient immortal realm. It transforms any user's talent into the innate supreme Tao body. I swallowed the pill. It melted instantly, turning into a fiery, cleansing current within my body. The heat was intense but harmless, rapidly reshaping my physique. My senses sharpened, and my internal chi began to circulate with newfound speed. Crack. 10 minutes later, I jumped up, feeling refreshed as my bones popped. I noticed a layer of foul-smelling black sludge, toxins and impurities, covering my skin. Despite the stench, I was ecstatic. The pill had successfully forged my body into the innate supreme Tao body. This legendary physique would allow me to crush any genius in the Qingtian Empire. I checked my status. My strength now showed 4 Directions Continent, Peak Ranshan Realm, Temporary, and my base strength, Peak Mingji Realm. Even after the Burning God Pill's effect wore off, I would remain at the Peak Mingji Realm. I had bypassed years of cultivation in an instant. With the True Emperor Scroll, my potential was limitless. I called for a bath to wash away the impurities. Afterward, my skin glowed like jade with a faint divine luster. My blood hummed like thunder, a sign of my newfound physical strength. I immediately began practicing the True Emperor Scroll. Only by growing my own power could I feel secure. Boom! As I entered meditation, I began drawing in the surrounding spiritual energy. The True Emperor Scroll proved tyrannical, forming vortices around me. 9 spiritual vortices appeared, creating a massive suction force that pulled energy from the entire area. I began to devour the world's energy with insatiable hunger. A spiritual vortex formed above the guest room, glowing with divine light and emitting a fragrant, translucent aura that felt almost tangible. Boom, boom, boom. The vortex aggressively siphoned spiritual energy from across the city, concentrating it within the Yang Mansion. With me at the center, the surrounding 1,000 meters became a dense ocean of energy. Every martial artist in Baiyang City immediately sensed the shocking fluctuation. The city's martial practitioners rushed out, staring at the Yang mansion in stunned silence. The entire city fell mute, everyone gazing up at the towering vortex in sheer disbelief. My God, an aura storm. Who in the Yang mansion is cultivating to trigger such a phenomenon? People muttered, unable to process the sight. After a long silence, someone cried out in a trembling voice. The legends are true. A human genius has emerged. A peerless genius. An aura storm is a martial miracle, occurring only when a prodigy with a peerless physique and talent draws heaven and earth energy into their body. History records that only orcs, winged races, or sea tribes have produced such geniuses, who inevitably became supreme rulers of the eastern continent for millennia. Yet now, it was happening here, on human soil. The crowd wept, believing this marked the dawn of a new era where humanity would finally rise to dominate the continent. Humanity has hope. Heaven bless the Chengtian Empire. Many knelt and kowtowed toward the Yang mansion, overcome with emotion. Despite their numbers, humans have been the weakest race on the Four Directions continent for 100,000 years, suppressed by others. From humiliating treaties to the constant pressure on the northern frontier, the human situation has been dire. Viewed as the bottom-tier race due to their physical limitations and lack of top-tier experts, their plight has been long and tragic. Boom! The vortex continued to churn. Inside the mansion, General Yang and Yang Mingwei led their soldiers in meditation, seizing this rare opportunity to cultivate. 2 hours later, the vortex dissipated, and the Yangs emerged from their trance. General Yang stood, looking toward my room with a complex, gratified expression. My son, you serve a remarkable master. My rise is unstoppable. This is a blessing for the Su prince's estate. And for the Yang family, father, Yang Mingwei added. Yang Mingwei watched the room with fanatical worship. His master had just triggered an aura storm. For an aspiring famous general, serving a master with such monstrous talent was the greatest fortune. Legend says those who trigger such storms are destined for the supreme throne. No, the general sighed. This blessing is only for you to bear. We cannot handle it. General Yang spoke with hidden meaning. He left his warning unfinished. This blessing would likely invite disaster. Father, Yang Mingwei looked on, confused. Mingwei, execute all house servants who witnessed the storm, except for the 1,000 the young master is taking with him. The general ordered firmly. Keep the 2,000 private soldiers under strict watch, but kill the rest. Seal all news. If anyone asks, say I triggered the storm. Father, Yang Mingwei hesitated. It concerns your master's life. Go, the general barked. Yes. Yang Mingwei bowed and left to carry out the grim task. He trusted his father's judgment implicitly, knowing there was a deeper reason for these actions. Sigh, this storm is both a blessing and a curse. General Yang looked at the guest room with a bitter smile. Alien races fear the return of human hegemony. If they learned of a human genius capable of triggering an aura storm, they would send assassins to eliminate him immediately. My situation was now perilous, and the general, experienced in border warfare, understood the stakes better than the commoners. The storm had been too sudden to hide. I was still weak. I could not survive an assassination attempt by legendary experts from the alien races. I could not be allowed to die. For both the Su prince's estate and the future of humanity, the general decided to draw the fire onto himself. If the alien races attacked, the entire city and empire would be helpless. But the general was fearless. After seeing the storm, his resolve hardened. He would sacrifice the Yang family to pave my path. If my identity remained hidden, humanity still had hope. As long as Yang Mingwei stayed by my side, the Yang bloodline would endure. The glory of the human race would return, and the general was ready to die for it. By evening, Su Nan and Su Bo returned, and a messenger arrived. Knock, knock. Who is it? I opened my eyes, divine light fading from my gaze. I had finished my meditation and was reflecting on my insights. Young master, the general has prepared a banquet at Wangdong Tower to welcome you. May we depart? A soldier spoke from outside, his tone filled with newfound reverence. The mansion staff had witnessed the storm, and the martial artists among them had benefited greatly. Their own strength had improved from merely being near the energy surge. Consequently, Their respect for me had reached new heights. "Tell Uncle Yang I'll be there shortly," I replied, jumping off the bed. Feeling refreshed and stronger, I checked my status. I had jumped from the peak of the Mingji realm to the third stage of the Gyudi realm in one afternoon. The true Emperor Scroll was truly a peerless cultivation technique. As I reviewed my system notifications, I spotted a new entry. Loyalty of Lord Servant Yang Mingwei increased by 2. Loyalty is now at maximum. Already maxed? Not bad. I smiled, then suddenly froze. Wait, I triggered an aura storm. This is a massive problem. I stood stunned, a bitter smile on my face, unsure whether to be happy or terrified. I sighed, realizing I must leave Baiyang City immediately after triggering the aura storm. Having transmigrated to the Four Directions continent 3 years ago, I understood the consequences of such an event. Like General Yang, I knew that while the storm benefited the human race, it posed a grave personal crisis for me. The phenomenon would inevitably cause a massive stir among the major clans of the eastern continent. I decided to depart for Haishi Town within 2 days to lay low until the situation calmed. As I prepared to close the system interface, a final notification appeared. System, initial cultivation of the true Emperor Scroll is free. Future improvements will require the consumption of public support energy based on your rank. Figures. I smiled bitterly. This heaven-defying technique had strings attached, effectively forcing me to secure my own territory. Without a territory, my strength would stagnate. Since I was already planning to leave, I hoped to resolve the territory issue once I reached Haishi County. For now, I pushed aside my concerns and stepped out of my room to attend the banquet. Su Nan and Su Bo were waiting, having spent the afternoon recruiting followers with gold coins. Most people hesitated to relocate to Baishan County, even when the pay was doubled to 2 gold coins. Su Nan reported apologetically that they had only recruited about 30 people. Su Bo sighed, noting that Baiyang City's superior environment made people reluctant to leave their homes. I waved it off, telling them to join me at Wangdong Tower and worry about recruitment later. I comforted them, noting I had expected such reluctance from the people of the Qingtian Empire. With 3,000 private soldiers and 1,000 house servants already under my command, I wasn't desperate for more. The 3 joined General Yang's party. A luxurious procession of carriages, led by General Yang and me, headed toward Wangdong Tower. The lead carriage, ornate and pulled by fire cloud horses, drew envious stares from the crowd. Onlookers recognized General Yang's carriage, but were stunned to see another vehicle leading it. They wondered who could possibly hold a status higher than the general. The crowd's curiosity grew as they realized the lead carriage belonged to an even more distinguished guest. All eyes turned toward the lead carriage. I sat inside, silent. Ignoring the gossip outside, I focused on studying the true Emperor Scroll. They soon arrived at Wangdong Tower. The tower featured gilded statues and elegant, minimalist architecture that stood out in the city. It was a refined establishment, distinct from the city's usual style. The 3rd floor was reserved for the elite, a rarity in Baiyang City. General Yang had generously booked the entire 3rd floor to host me. Local nobles, the city lord, and prominent families were already waiting. They stood at the entrance, eager to greet the arrivals. As I and General Yang stepped out, the nobles swarmed us. They offered fawning greetings, urging the pair to head inside to avoid the cold. The nobles escorted us to the 3rd floor with sycophantic enthusiasm. I remained poised and polite, while General Yang introduced the local dignitaries. General Yang introduced the city lord, Ling Ba, a white-haired man. I noted that despite his age, Ling Ba was a peak Baisui realm expert, the strongest in the city. Ling Ba bowed respectfully, and I returned the gesture, acknowledging him as the head of the Ling family. While the Ling family was the most powerful in Baiyang City, they were insignificant compared to the Su prince's estate. Ling Ba, clearly intimidated by my status, asked if he could address me as young master, a term for a master-servant relationship. I agreed with a smirk. I recognized the old man's blatant flattery. General Yang continued introducing the other family heads. These seasoned veterans were even more shameless than Ling Ba. Each one bowed and addressed me as young master. They were all vying to attach themselves to the Su prince's estate. I found their desperation amusing. I responded with humble, practiced grace. I maintained a perfect, polite facade that left no room for criticism. The nobles continued their fawning. They insisted I treat the city as my own home. They pledged their absolute obedience to my future commands. My demeanor made the local nobles feel inferior. Regardless of my reputation as a waste, my background was untouchable. The fame of the Su prince's estate and military advisor Nien cast a long shadow. My personal talent mattered little compared to my lineage. The nobles had collectively decided that currying favor with me was their best move. They were willing to act as servants if it meant aligning with the Su prince's estate. They were unaware of the political turmoil brewing in the imperial capital. The first prince was secretly moving against the Su prince's estate to curb their influence. These secrets were hidden from provincial nobles. Only the highest-ranking dukes were privy to the power struggle. The first prince focused on courting powerful military and city leaders. Because Baiyang City was small, its nobles were not yet on the first prince's radar. General Yang exposed my identity to the local nobles of Baiyang City, today, specifically, to secure resources and benefits for me. Now independent from the Su prince's estate, I am expected by military advisor Nien to forge my own path and replicate the glory of God of War Su. Despite the imperial capital's view of me as a failure, Nien believes I will one day soar to greatness. My sisters, Miss Huin and Su Huimi, share this faith. The resources of Baiyang's nobles, while beneath the first prince's notice, are vital for my early development. General Yang is orchestrating this banquet to pave the way for me, acting as my strategic benefactor. The group moved to the third floor, where I was reluctantly seated at the head of the table. As musicians played, dancers performed while a feast of fine wine and delicacies was served. A noble toasted me, offering local spring wine and asking how it compared to the capital's finest. The noble poured wine for me with a fawning smile. Another noble presented rare dishes, including claws of the violent wind-cold bear and wings of the demon skyfire bird, prepared by a former imperial chef. The nobles eagerly described the extravagant spread. Even I, accustomed to the luxury of the Su prince's estate, was surprised by the opulence. A single dish here was worth hundreds of gold coins, enough to sustain a common family for a lifetime. The entire table was worth over 10,000 gold coins, more than 10 times the annual tax revenue of Blackstone County. You are all too generous. I am truly grateful, I replied. I smiled and returned toasts, though my eyes remained cold and detached. I reflected on how the Chengtian Empire, despite its struggles against the Orc Empire, was filled with nobles obsessed only with luxury and sycophancy. The room was full of gluttons. With the old emperor ailing and the first prince obsessed with power, there were no true patriots. While the eastern continent faces chaos and external threats, the empire remains paralyzed by internal power struggles. Only the presence of God of War Su in the northern frontier keeps the empire from being swallowed by alien races. The decadence of the empire hides a deepening national crisis. I sighed inwardly, feeling a sense of alarm amidst the fawning faces. I vowed that if I ever became a lord, I would never allow such useless, highborn parasites in my administration. After several rounds of drinks, General Yang cleared his throat and noted the hardships I would face on my way to Blackstone County. He watched me with a drunken, knowing smile. Yang had remained silent while the others flattered me, observing the situation. His sudden mention of Blackstone County stunned the nobles, who were confused by the choice of such a lawless, impoverished region. They wondered if God of War Su Long was risking his only son, or if this was a sign of me falling out of favor. Sensing a potential shift in power, the nobles fell silent, waiting to see how the situation would unfold. These shrewd nobles analyzed the situation based on Yang's words. I smiled, playing along. Uncle Yang, do not worry. I must obey my father's orders, no matter how difficult the journey. Oh, was it the general's order? I heard it was an imperial decree, Yang remarked faintly. The nobles listened intently to this scripted exchange. They were unaware that I and Yang were colluding to extract wealth from them. I dismissed the distinction, and Yang laughed, implying the general's influence was paramount. Yang then raised his glass, asking me to look after his son, Yang Mingwei, during the campaign to earn military merit. I feigned displeasure at the request, prompting Yang to apologize and drink in embarrassment, which only excited the nobles further. The keywords, Blackstone County, banditry, military merit, and Yang's son, clicked in their minds. They concluded that I was being sent to easily suppress the bandits and secure military glory. They believed God of War Su Long was paving the way for his son, and Yang was trying to secure a spot for his own heir. The nobles realized that Blackstone County was the perfect, low-risk path to rapid promotion. With the backing of the Su prince's estate, success was guaranteed. They saw this as the only viable path for me to rise in the empire's hierarchy. Jealous of Yang's exclusive connection, the nobles glared at him, desperate to get involved. Yang then offered a crimson heirship to me, ostensibly to help me reach the county faster. He gave me a secret look. I caught the signal and nodded subtly toward Yang Mingwei. The nobles witnessed this transaction and were convinced of a secret deal. Knowing how much Yang valued that heirship, his willingness to give it away proved the venture's immense profitability. They realized that military merit was only the beginning of the rewards. Realizing they were late to the opportunity, they scrambled to act. One by one, the nobles stepped forward, pledging gold and soldiers to my cause. The Wang, Li, and Su families all offered gold and private soldiers to serve the country. The Si family pledged steel weapons and armor for 5,000 men. The Wu family offered 300 Mingji realm weapons, triggering a wave of competitive donations. They were desperate to invest in me, hoping to have their names recorded in the merit reports for a share of the glory. Even the scraps of military merit would be enough to secure their own promotions. The nobles looked on with feigned patriotic fervor, eager to see me succeed and lift them up with me. The greedy nobles suddenly transformed into patriotic citizens. Only General Yang, sipping his wine, watched them with mocking amusement. I knew that with a few tricks, I and the young master could drain these nobles of their hidden wealth. Gentlemen, what is this? I cannot accept your gifts. The Su prince's estate is not lacking in resources. I feigned annoyance and righteous refusal, which only made the nobles more desperate. Young master, please. We are too frail to fight, so we must donate these supplies to serve the empire. Exactly. Your campaign in Blackstone County is a monumental achievement. We cannot let you fight alone. Defending the empire is our duty. Please accept these supplies. Young master, you must accept this token of our patriotism. The nobles insisted, using high-minded rhetoric to force their resources and manpower upon me. I frowned and hesitated. The nobles panicked, fearing I wouldn't share the military merit. This was a once-in-a-century chance to gain military credit from the comfort of their homes. Desperate, they signaled General Yang to intervene. Even Ling Ba, the Ling family head, watched the general with calculating eyes. The old man was cautious, but I was determined to drag the Ling family into this. I needed to fleece the wealthy Ling family. General Yang whispered to me, suggesting I accept the gifts as a gesture of goodwill to be settled after the campaign. Yang made sure his whisper was loud enough for the room to hear. The room fell into a tense, expectant silence. I sighed. Very well. I will accept these for the general's sake, but keep this quiet. My father would scold me if the Imperial capital found out. I played the part of a spoiled, lazy playboy perfectly. My reputation as the Empire's biggest failure made my greed seem entirely in character. The nobles were overjoyed and swore to keep the matter secret. These are personal gifts, unrelated to the campaign, they promised. Do with them as you please, young master. They patted their chests, grateful to General Yang for the opportunity. Ling Ba was moved. He wanted a piece of the military merit and a good relationship with the Su prince's estate. He felt that any price was worth the favor of the Su family. General Yang smiled, satisfied, and returned to his wine. No one noticed the subtle exchange between me and the general. Their bait, the promise of merit, had successfully hooked the greedy nobles. With my consent, more nobles rushed to pledge their assets. The banquet turned into a donation drive, though most offered gold rather than supplies. The nobles believed gold could buy anything they needed. I frowned. I needed supplies for the remote Blackstone County, not useless gold. I signaled Yang. Ahem. Yang remarked casually. I must remind you, Blackstone County is remote. Gold is of little use there. The nobles realized their mistake and quickly swapped gold for weapons, armor, and grain. I smiled politely while Su Bo recorded the donations. Finally, Ling Ba spoke up. The Ling family wishes to contribute as well. We donate 3,000 sets of Mingji realm weapons and armor, 3,000 private soldiers, 2,000 servants, grain, cloth, siege engines, and large crossbows. Ling Ba offered them as retired equipment, hoping to curry favor. The room erupted in shock at the Ling family's immense wealth. They were clearly the top power in Baiyang City. The siege engines and crossbows were true weapons of war. Ling Ba was sure to secure his merit. Others were envious, knowing Ling Ba controlled the city's military stores. Ling Ba was cautious, giving enough to impress, but not enough to trigger an investigation from the Imperial capital. Regardless, I was thrilled with the massive haul. Thank you, City Lord Ling. They toasted each other. I will not forget your contributions when I return victorious, I declared. The nobles were ecstatic, promising to deliver everything to the Yang mansion by tomorrow. The atmosphere reached a fever pitch of celebration. I sat back, satisfied. I reviewed the list Su Bo had compiled. The page was filled with dense, valuable entries. It was a massive harvest, 10 times what I had expected from these fat sheep. I marveled at my success. These resources would ensure a smooth start in Blackstone County. This haul saved me months of struggle. The total: 5,000 Mingji warriors, 2,000 soldiers, 3,000 servants, 100,000 gold coins, 331 carts of grain, 57 carts of cloth, and thousands of monster crystal cores, plus 5,000 sets of Mingji grade gear and 6,000 sets of standard steel equipment. I examined the list of supplies: 10 siege engines, 10 heavy crossbows, and a military crimson airship, with a satisfied smile. With thousands of troops and a full arsenal, the crimson airship donated by General Yang was the true prize. The crimson airship, a specialized Changtian Empire military vessel, consumes monster crystal cores to transport massive amounts of troops and supplies. The sheer scale of the airship was evident, as the gathered supplies barely filled a fraction of its cargo capacity. The donated monster crystal cores perfectly solved the energy needs for the airship, as these cores and energy or serve as the universal fuel for the Four Directions continent's advanced equipment. I suppressed my excitement, maintaining a composed facade while engaging in traditional drinking table culture with the nobles. As the banquet neared its end, the guests shifted their focus toward General Yang. Everyone was eager to question the general about the aura storm that had occurred that afternoon. Even Ling Ba pressed the general for details regarding the phenomenon. Believing they had already secured benefits through their donations, the nobles now hoped to extract further favors from the Yang mansion. They speculated on which expert from the Yang mansion had triggered the storm and how they might personally profit from it. General Yang, however, skillfully deflected their inquiries with laughter and evasive remarks. He hinted that the individual responsible for the aura storm had already departed Baiyang City for the Imperial capital. Unable to press further, the nobles instead showered the general with increased flattery and attention. As a former subordinate of mine and a key figure linked to the mysterious expert, General Yang became the center of the banquet, toasted repeatedly by the sycophantic crowd. I, ignored by the crowd, was perfectly content with the solitude. I only endured these insincere nobles for the sake of future resources and manpower for my territory. Sipping my wine, I turned my gaze toward the window. The night in Baiyang City was vibrant, with bustling streets, glowing orange lanterns, and hard-working vendors hawking snacks. As I observed the mundane life below, a sudden commotion broke out. 2 teenagers, a boy and a girl, sprinted in panic toward Wangdong Tower. They were being pursued by a dozen thugs armed with clubs. A lavishly dressed young man followed, waving a folding fan and shouting, "Ling Yu, you dare defy me? Catch that girl and break the brat's legs." From the 3rd floor, I recognized the pair as the Ling siblings I had helped earlier that day. The young man's servants bore the Ling crest. It seemed his previous intervention had not deterred the arrogant young Master Ling. More servants blocked the street ahead, cornering the siblings with menacing grins. "It's over," Ling Yu thought, his heart sinking. Trapped between pursuers, they had nowhere left to run. Young Master Ling approached with a lecherous, greedy gaze fixed on the girl. Lord Hu rushed forward to plead. "Young Master, please. They are protected by a Bisway realm expert. We cannot afford to offend them. Get lost. Young Masterling struck Lord Hu with a club, venting his rage. You useless fool. You couldn't handle a simple task, and now you're scared of a mere Bisway realm cultivator? My grandfather is the strongest in Baiyang City. Even if that expert exists, they wouldn't dare offend the Ling family for these two ants. Young Master Ling roared, his behavior bordering on madness. Spoiled since childhood, he believed he was entitled to anything he desired, including the girl. He was determined to possess her. As Lord Hu writhed in pain, the young master realized the siblings had vanished. Where are they? He demanded. They ran into Wangdong Tower. A servant replied. The servant warned. The master is hosting guests inside. Perhaps we should wait until tomorrow to avoid causing a scene. Coward! Young Master Ling slapped the servant across the face. I fear no guest. I am the Ling family's only heir. Who is more important than me? We must catch them now before they escape the city. He ordered his servants to storm the tower. As the guests inside panicked, I watched the chaos from above with a cold, intent gaze. Seeing the Ling thugs invade the tower, a flicker of anger crossed my eyes. The arrogance of this young man was truly boundless. Such lawlessness in Baiyang City was intolerable. The servants silenced the patrons and dragged the Ling siblings before their master. Run? You think you can refuse me? Young Master Ling stepped forward with a cruel grin. Ling Yu gritted his teeth, shielding his sister with his frail body. I swear, Ling Yu hissed with intense hatred. If I survive this, I will destroy the entire Ling family. His deep-seated resentment spoke volumes of the abuse they had endured for years. Arrogant, the young master struck him. The blow from the Mingji realm martial artist sent Ling Yu vomiting blood, his face deathly pale. Stop! Please, don't hurt my brother. Ling and Er wept, kneeling in desperation. The patrons watched in pity, though those who wished to help were held back by the fear of the Ling family's power. The servants stood around their master, puffed up with the reflected status of their house. You look beautiful when you cry, the young master sneered. Come home with me, and I'll spare your brother. He reached out to grab Ling and Er, ignoring the indignant glares of the crowd. Don't touch her, Ling Yu roared, lunging forward like a cornered tiger, only to be kicked aside by a servant, leaving a pool of blood on the floor. The crowd watched in horror, paralyzed by the Ling family's notorious cruelty. Please, stop hitting him. Ling and Er sobbed, crawling to her brother's side. Ling Yu lay motionless, his life fading. As a powerless commoner, he was nothing more than an ant in the eyes of a martial artist. Come with me, beauty, or your brother won't survive the night, the young master threatened. He closed in, savoring the girl's forced submission. He cared nothing for her hatred. He only wanted to break her spirit and claim his prize. Fine, Ling and Er whispered, wiping her tears with a firm resolve. Don't kill him. I'll go with you. She was ready to sacrifice herself to save the brother who had protected her for so many years. Good. Haha, now that's obedient. The Ling family young master laughed wildly, his servants fawning over him. Another innocent girl was about to be ruined by this scoundrel. The crowd sighed. Don't touch my sister. Ling Yu, barely clinging to life, muttered through gritted teeth, struggling to stand. Thwack! The young master stomped on Ling Yu's back, reaching out to grab the terrified Ling and Er. Little beauty, come home with me. You'll have a better life and won't need to do manual labor anymore. He chuckled, his voice trembling with excitement. Ling and Er stared in despair, frozen as the hand reached for her. She had hidden for so long, yet this day had finally come. Would she be defiled by this wretch? Her heart ached, and she suddenly recalled the white-clad gentleman she had met outside the city. If only that elegant, powerful man were here. She sighed, her budding hope crushed by reality. It was a pity she would never see him again. As the hand neared, she closed her eyes in resignation. Whoosh! A black streak shot down from the third floor like lightning, piercing the floorboards right by the young master's fingers. Splat! The object was a chopstick, embedded deep into the stone. The crowd gasped. Heavens! To embed a chopstick in a stone, what immense power! The young master shrieked, clutching his hand as blood dripped from his mangled fingers. 3 of his fingernails had been sheared off. Protect me, he screamed. His servants swarmed around him. Who dares ambush me? He glared up at the third floor, searching for the culprit. He vowed to make whoever did this pay, regardless of their skill. But the third floor was empty. A calm, mocking voice echoed. Bullying your own kin, kidnapping innocent girls, and causing chaos in the streets. Your Ling family prestige is truly something to behold. Who's there? The young master squinted at the stairs. Lingener opened her eyes. Seeing the chopstick, she felt a surge of gratitude. The guests looked toward the stairs, curious. They wondered who dared challenge the Ling family's power in Baiyang City. I descended, dressed in white with a sword at my waist, followed by Su Nan and Su Bo. I immediately drew everyone's attention. With a faint smile and deep, star-like eyes, I stood with effortless grace. A true gentleman, the guests whispered. The young women in the crowd felt their hearts race. It was me. Lingener stared in disbelief, her eyes wide. She would never forget my silhouette. I was like a god, appearing to save her twice in her darkest moments. Her heart hammered as she gazed at me. I stood in the silence that followed, unaware of how many eyes were still fixed on me. The young master's eyes turned cold as he watched me. Audacious. Who are you to lecture me? A servant pointed at me, cursing me. Su Nan's brow furrowed in rage. Su Nan stepped forward. Moving like a shadow, he reached the servant in an instant. Shing! His blade flashed like lightning. The servant's head flew, blood spraying the floor. The look of mockery still frozen on his face. He died before he could even feel fear. The head rolled to the young master's feet, its eyes staring blankly, terrifying him. Insulting my master is a death sentence. Su Nan stood cold, his empty sleeve fluttering, his aura overwhelming. His decisive, military-style execution was clear. A Gyuti realm expert. The crowd realized the Ling family was in trouble. To have a Gyuti expert as a servant, this man's background must be immense. The guests were stunned. In Baiyang City, Gyuti experts were rare, and true masters were usually untouchable. Su Nan was a top-tier fighter here. The young master gritted his teeth. You. I walked down, looking at the young master with disdain. They call you a scoundrel? You're not even worthy of the title. As the Empire's premier scoundrel, I knew the definition well. A true scoundrel was merely a mediocre, pleasure-seeking rich kid. But they weren't thugs or bullies. The young master trembled with rage. Ignoring him, I walked to the semi-conscious Ling Yu. Su Bo knelt and began applying medicine to Ling Yu's wounds. Lingener felt her grievances welling up. It's all right. I'm here, and you and your brother will be safe. Don't be afraid. I smiled and gently helped her up. Overwhelmed, Lingener burst into tears and buried her face in my chest. Wu Sir, my brother, they hurt him. Lingener, usually reserved, felt a sudden urge to weep into my arms, finding comfort in my gentle smile. Having saved her twice, I had become the only person the young girl trusted implicitly. To Lingener, I was now the most reliable man in the world, second only to her brother, Ling Yu. I was far gentler than her brother, and she felt comforted by my presence and scent. I offered a bitter smile, gently patting her back to soothe her. I couldn't help but notice that despite her slender frame, she was remarkably soft and well-endowed against my chest. Seeing his prey in my arms, the young master of the Ling family was incensed. Ignoring his injured fingers, he roared, "You bastard! Let her go. She belongs to me." "Say that again." Su Nan barked, his eyes flashing with killing intent as he locked onto the young master. Daring to insult me required a blood price. Su Nan stepped forward, his blade glinting in the candlelight. "Look, the Ling young master is in for it now," onlookers whispered. "True, but that servant is a Gyuti realm expert despite his missing arm. The Ling master is only Mingji realm. He's outmatched. He should have backed down instead of coveting the girl. He deserves this," the crowd mocked. The jeers fueled the Ling young master's rage. He pointed at Su Nan, snarling, "A Gyuti realm expert? You think I'm afraid of you? I warn you, don't interfere, or you'll regret it." The young master growled, his face twisted in a grimace. He wasn't stupid. My refined appearance suggested nobility. He had been restraining himself, but the girl's affection for me and the public humiliation pushed him to his limit. "What? Scared?" Su Nan asked with a playful smirk. "So arrogant before, and now you resort to empty threats? Is acting tough still working for you?" I calmed Lingener and said calmly, "Not everyone fears the Ling family. For Ling Ba's sake. Su Nan, take one of his hands as a lesson. The request was delivered with such casual ease, as if amputation were an act of mercy. The onlookers felt as if I were a high-ranking monarch showing leniency to common criminals. Lingener peeked at my calm, handsome profile, feeling a mix of panic and profound safety. As you wish, young master. Su Nan grinned and strode toward the Ling young master. The young master's word was law. Don't hurt our master. The servants rushed forward, terrified of the consequences if their master were harmed. Their own lives and families were at stake. Get lost. The Ling young master shoved his servants aside, sneering at me. You forced my hand. I didn't want to kill you, but you leave me no choice. I raised an eyebrow. You talk too much. The Ling family isn't to be trifled with. Even if you're a noble, no one will avenge you in Baiyang City. You're dead, the young master shrieked. Lingda, come out and kill them. Yes, young master, a deep voice replied. A gaunt man stepped out from the servants, wielding a simple wooden staff. Lingda? That name sounds familiar. Someone muttered, just as a massive aura erupted. A powerful, tangible internal chi swirled around Lingda and his staff. Ninghun realm, someone gasped. Soon tensed, bracing for a deadly fight. The crowd realized the situation had turned dire. A hidden Ninghun realm expert was among the servants. The Ling family clearly valued their heir, stationing a high-level expert as a mere bodyguard. The onlookers looked at me with pity. A crippled beauty realm fighter stood no chance against a Ninghun realm expert. The young master clearly intended to kill. They sighed, believing the kind-hearted young man was doomed. No one in Wangdong Tower believed I could survive against Lingda. I remember him. Lingda was trained by the Ling patriarch himself. He once slaughtered dozens of beauty bandits alone, a guest exclaimed. The crowd's despair deepened. Lingda smiled arrogantly, while Su Nan's pupils constricted. As Lingda stepped forward, Su Nan felt an overwhelming pressure, as if crushed by boulders from all sides. This was the aura of a Ninghun realm expert. Lingda was a full stage above him, making Su Nan struggle just to stand. Ninghun realm? I asked, raising an eyebrow. Scared, the Ling young master laughed, blood dripping from his fingers. I told you not to meddle. Lingda, break both of this bastard's hands. Let's see who loses their hands today, the young master taunted, his eyes filled with bloodlust. The thought of me begging for mercy brought the young master a sick sense of pleasure. As you command, young master. Lingda looked at Su Nan calmly. Step aside, boy. You're no match for me. You heard the master. Your lord's hands are mine. Lingda's voice dripped with disdain. He didn't even consider a crippled beauty realm fighter a threat. Get out. Su Nan roared, veins bulging as he resisted the pressure, shouting, My young master is of noble status. How dare you insult him? Noble? Even nobles kneel before me. Lingda, do it, the young master sneered. Lingda smiled with feigned pity, hands behind his back, advancing slowly to crush Su Nan with his aura. He wanted to show off his power. I watched with a playful, amused smile. Young master, I'm sorry. Ling Yu and I have brought this upon you. Lingener leaned against me, her eyes red and swollen, looking at me with deep apology. She felt guilty that her situation had endangered me. Don't cry. A Ninghun realm fighter is nothing to me. Watch me beat him down and avenge you and your brother. I smiled gently, flicking her nose with a relaxed air. Really? Lingener looked at me with newfound hope. Of course. I laughed. A Ninghun realm expert? Too bad for them. I was at the peak of the Ranshin realm. Arrogant. Ling Da's expression darkened. You think you can defeat a Ninghun realm expert? The Ling young master doubled over in laughter. You're hilarious. How will you beat him? With your mouth? Ha ha ha. The Ling family young master sneered, his voice dripping with smug triumph. Confident that the situation was under his absolute control, he watched with excitement as Su Nan struggled against Ling Da's overwhelming pressure. Knock me down. Let's see you try. Ling Da growled, pulling out his staff and lunging forward with a swift, dark expression. Ling Da struck with terrifying speed, his staff whistling through the air as it descended towards Su Nan's head with crushing force. He intended to show this arrogant man in white that a Ninghun realm expert was not to be trifled with. Wait here, be a good girl, I said. I chuckled, released Lingener, and vanished from my spot. As the staff descended, Su Nan felt a surge of despair. He was locked in place by his opponent's aura and unable to dodge. A thunderous bang echoed through the hall. Instead of the expected pain, Su Nan watched as Ling Da's small frame was sent flying like a discarded rag doll. Boom! Ling Da crashed 5 meters away, slamming into the bluestone floor of Wangdong Tower and cracking the stone. I stood calmly beside Su Nan, hand resting lightly on my sword hilt, looking utterly composed. Uffed! Ling Da vomited blood, his chest stained crimson. With broken bones and his own internal chi ravaging his body, he lay on the verge of death. Haha, wait, what? Cough, cough. The Ling young master's laughter died in his throat, replaced by frantic, choking coughs as the situation turned. He stared in utter shock at Ling Da, who lay writhing in agony on the floor. The guests in Wangdong Tower were stunned. A Ninghan realm expert had been sent flying with a single blow. Realizing the one-armed man lacked such power, they turned their gaze to the man in white. He sent a Ninghan expert flying. He must be even stronger. A true hidden master. The crowd erupted in excitement and awe. Having watched the Ling family bully the siblings and expecting me to be crushed, the sudden reversal left them breathless. The white-clad youth's strength surpassed even Ling Da's, turning the confrontation into a thrilling spectacle. It was more gripping than any local play. Thank you for saving my life, young master. Su Nan bowed gratefully. Though Su Nan didn't know how his master had become so powerful, his loyalty and admiration only deepened. I waved him off. Smiling down at the broken Ling Da, I said, I told you I'd knock you down. Why didn't you believe me? Look at you now. The guests marveled at how quickly the tables had turned. The Ling young master stood frozen, unable to process that his champion had been defeated without me even appearing to strike. This wasn't just a victory, it was a total crushing. Recalling his earlier arrogance, the Ling young master felt his face burn with shame. Every memory of his taunts now felt like a stinging slap to his own face. It was a harsh lesson that life is full of unexpected turns. Ling Da, though humiliated, could only lie there, unable to rise. My strike had shattered his internal chi and meridians. He was effectively crippled for life. Without a miracle medicine, he would never be a martial artist again. Lingener watched me with eyes full of awe and adoration. Cough. Your sword's speed is incredible, Ling Da wheezed bitterly. He hadn't even seen me move before being struck. Sword? You're mistaken. I used the scabbard. I stroked the true Emperor's sword and said calmly, You aren't worthy of seeing my blade. The crowd was electrified. A Ninghan expert wasn't even worth drawing my sword for. The statement was incredibly satisfying to hear. The guests felt a sense of vindication against the arrogant Ling family. This was the collective sentiment of the room. The Ling young master turned ashen. His strongest protector wasn't even worth a drawn sword. Not worthy. Ling Da felt a mix of anger and bitter resignation. He realized he had no right to be angry at a superior opponent. Are you in the Baishui realm? If I were Baishui, I wouldn't have lost. Ling Da groaned. His voice was laced with resentment. As a peak Ninghan expert, he felt his defeat was unjust, separated by only half a step. The crowd waited with bated breath for my answer. Wrong again, I smiled. I am in the Ranshan realm. Peak Ranshan realm. The revelation struck Ling Da like another physical blow. My implication was clear. Even if Ling Da were Baishui, the outcome would have been the same. The crowd gasped in shock. A Ranshan expert this young was a monster of talent. Overwhelmed by the realization that he was hopelessly outclassed, Ling Da fainted. Despair washed over the Ling young master. Ranshan realm? No. I don't believe it, he shrieked, losing his sanity. Wait until my grandfather hears of this. He's at the peak of Baishui realm. He'll kill you. Driven by fear and the crowd's praise for me, the young master's eyes turned bloodshot. Noisy, I frowned. I flicked my finger, sending Su Nan's blade flying through the air. The blade flashed like lightning, severing the Ling young master's left hand at the wrist. Aya! It hurts. His roar turned into a shrill, pathetic scream. A lesson for your arrogance, I said calmly, refusing to stain my own sword with such blood. The crowd cheered in approval. The Ling family servants rushed forward in a panic to surround their master. It hurts. Damn you. Get away from me. Ling Ba's son, clutching his severed hand, trembled in agony. He shoved his servants aside, pointed a shaking finger at me, and shrieked, "You're dead. I'll kill you. Someone, get my grandfather." This bastard dared to hurt me. His lips quivered with pain, his speech incoherent, yet his bloodshot eyes remained fixed on me with venomous hatred. I frowned, my calm gaze flickering with a hint of killing intent. Did this fool really think he could threaten me and walk away unscathed? I had decided to kill him. The patrons of Wangdong Tower gasped in shock at the young master's reckless vitriol. It was over. The young master was determined to destroy this man in white, and the Ling family would surely retaliate to avenge their favored heir. If the Ling family patriarch mobilized his entire clan, even a peak Ranshan realm expert like me might struggle to escape Baiyang City alive. Family power outweighed individual strength. Without reaching the Chuanchi realm, one could hardly stand against an entire army. The situation had turned dire. Lingener watched me with worried eyes. While the crowd panicked, I remained composed, my deep gaze lost in thought. The servants hesitated. This young man was clearly a Ranshan realm expert. Even the patriarch might not be enough to stop him. Fearing punishment for the young master's injury, one servant gritted his teeth and whispered, "Wait here, young master. I'll fetch the old master. Hurry. I don't care if he's a Ranshan expert. I want him dead. I want him to have no place to be buried." The young master roared, veins bulging on his neck, his voice raspy with rage. Never having suffered such a loss, he was blinded by the singular desire to kill me, regardless of the consequences. Before the servants could move, a cold, furious voice echoed from the stairs. "No need to look. I am already here." It was Ling Ba, the city lord and Ling family patriarch. He descended the stairs, his face dark and eyes burning with rage. The crowd's heart sank. Ling Ba had been hosting guests on the third floor. The timing was disastrous. The man in white was doomed, the onlookers sighed. Seeing his grandfather, the young master rushed over, wailing, "Grandfather, save me. My hand was cut off. It hurts so much." His voice was a pathetic mix of sobbing and hateful grinding of teeth. He blamed me for turning him into a cripple. "What? Your hand was cut off?" Ling Ba asked. Ling Ba descended the stairs, his pace deceptively slow. "It was that bastard. He did it. Grandfather, kill him for me." The young master pointed at me, snarling. His eyes were so filled with bloodshot hatred that if looks could kill, I would have died 1,000 times. I merely raised an eyebrow, watching Ling Ba with amusement. As the young master spoke, Ling Ba's expression sharpened with lethal intent. The young master rejoiced, thinking his grandfather would finally execute the man. Instead, Ling Ba roared at his grandson. "You fool! Who are you calling a bastard?" With a sharp swish, Ling Ba swung his palm. Smack! The resounding slap sent the young master spinning in place. The young master was left completely stunned. The entire hall fell into a stunned silence. Even the patrons were baffled. Clutching his swollen face, the young master stared at his grandfather, bewildered. "Grandfather, why? My hand was cut off. Why would a grandfather strike his own maimed kin instead of seeking revenge?" The young master felt his world collapsing. "Why? Do you think I didn't see what you did?" Ling Ba sneered. "I was on the third floor. I saw you bullying Ling Yu and his sister, suppressing the collateral branches, and kidnapping girls. You've disgraced the Ling family and me in front of all of Baiyang City." The roar left the young master's ears ringing. Known as a spoiled tyrant, the young master had long used the Ling family's name to terrorize the locals. Ling Ba glared at him, his voice trembling with suppressed fury. "I've turned a blind eye to your usual antics because you're the only heir, provided you didn't kill the innocent. But today, you committed such atrocities in public, and even ordered Ling to kill. Most importantly, you dared to insult the young master in front of me. Have you lost your mind?" Ling Ba was shaking with rage. "I was a figure of immense status, backed by the Su prince's estate and the most powerful man in the Qingtian Empire, supported by the fearsome Black Jade Cavalry. The inner squad guarded the estate, while the outer squad, legendary across the eastern continent, followed the god of war Su into battle. I was the heir to this invincible force. With the backing I possessed, anyone could easily crush the Ling family. This idiot was driving them to their graves." Ling Ba was terrified. If I had been harmed, The entire Ling family might not have lived to see the next sunrise. The slap had shocked everyone. They stared at me in awe. The young master, Ling Ba feared, was clearly this man in white. Who was he? Kneel. Apologized to the young master. Ling Ba commanded. Grandfather? Kneel to whom? The young master looked at his grandfather in disbelief and confusion. He still hadn't grasped the situation. Kneel to the young master. Kneel to me. Ling Ba roared, pointing at me. You beast. Kneel and beg for his forgiveness. So my name was Su Yu. Ling Ner watched me with shy curiosity. She had underestimated me, even after I saved her twice. She could no longer fathom my true status. I remained calm, watching the lesson unfold. When one's backing is powerful enough, no one dares to provoke those within that circle. Ling Ba knew that the reputation of the Su prince's estate and the god of war Su Long was enough to warrant extreme caution. This was the benefit of power, I mused. The crowd whispered in shock and excitement, realizing the scale of my background. Some noted that the city lord was usually fair and would have punished his grandson regardless. Others argued that the young master was finished now that Ling Ba had spoken. The crowd watched, a mix of shock and schadenfreude, as the tyrant finally faced his reckoning. The crowd was stunned by Ling Ba's actions, curious about my identity, and gleeful at the young master Ling's misfortune. No one sympathized with a bully. It is human nature to despise them. No, I won't kneel. The mocking laughter snapped young master Ling to his senses. Realizing his grandfather was forcing him to kneel to his enemy, he roared, I'd rather die than kneel to this bastard. Kneeling to the man who severed his hand was the ultimate humiliation. Ling Ba's eyes bulged, his hair bristling with rage, veins throbbing on his hands. This unfilial brat will be the death of our entire family. Ling Ba's fury boiled over. You unfilial son, I'll break your other hand. Ling Ba lunged like lightning, grabbed the boy's remaining hand, and twisted it with a brutal snap. A crisp crack echoed. The hand was torn off. Agonizing pain sent the boy into a trembling, collapsed heap on the floor. Now a total cripple, the boy's screams left the room in a terrifying, stunned silence. To appease me, Ling Ba had sacrificed his own grandson's hand. The crowd was awestruck by Ling Ba's ruthlessness and my hidden power. Just how formidable was I that Ling Ba feared me to this extent? The third floor of Wangdong Tower was soundproof. Ling Ba had only discovered the chaos below because of his grandson's piercing screams. You are a burden to this family, Ling Ba thought. Fine, be a cripple. At least you can still continue the bloodline. With a flicker of hidden reluctance, Ling Ba made his choice. If the young master won't forgive you, I'll kill you myself. He used his internal chi to force the boy to his knees. Dazed by pain and terror, the boy had no choice but to comply. Reality finally set in for the boy. His family had abandoned him, not out of lack of love, but out of sheer terror. His arrogance had finally hit a wall. He had kicked an iron plate, a wall that would leave him a cripple for life. Looking at my indifferent gaze, the boy felt a wave of humiliation and despair, and he began to weep. Thump. He knelt. Please forgive me, young master. I didn't know who you were. Don't kill me. He sobbed, snot and tears streaming down his face in a pathetic display of begging. Better to be a cripple than a corpse, he thought, regret burning in his eyes. If he could do it over, he would never provoke me. This man was untouchable. I remained unreadable. Ling Ba approached cautiously, bowing low. Young master, my grandson is a fool. Please spare his life. He is all we have to carry on the family name. I remained silent, weighing my options, leaving Ling Ba in agonizing suspense. The boy continued to kowtow, blood pooling on the floor, while no one dared to help him. The situation was clear. With Ling Ba begging, no one dared to speak. The crowd held their breath, waiting for my verdict. Everyone knew I held the boy's life in my hands. General Yang and his men watched from the stairs, observing the scene. All eyes were on me. As sweat beaded on Ling Ba's forehead, he gritted his teeth. If you cannot forgive this beast, I will execute him myself to satisfy you. Enough. I don't want to see blood today. Discipline him properly, so he stops bullying others. I smiled faintly. I decided against killing the boy. A cripple wasn't worth making a permanent enemy of the Baiyang City Ling family. The young master has changed, General Yang thought, impressed. He knows how to leverage power and when to retreat. If I had pushed the Ling family too hard, they would have harbored secret resentment. By showing mercy while holding the advantage, I earned Ling Ba's gratitude instead. My methods were masterfully balanced. Thank you for your magnanimity. I will keep him confined for the rest of his life. Ling Ba bowed, overjoyed. The guests looked on, thinking how much more impressive I was compared to the pathetic young Master Ling. I was powerful and high status, yet remained low-key. Truly, the most noble were the most humble. The crowd looked at me with envy and admiration. A dragon among men. I ignored them and approached the Ling siblings. Ling Yu was awake, though injured. Young master, this is Ling Yu and his sister, Lingener. They are distant relatives of our family, orphans who have suffered greatly. Ling Ba signaled servants to drag the unconscious boy away and introduced the siblings with extreme deference. Young master, Lingener, intimidated by Ling Ba, instinctively grabbed my arm and huddled close. Is that so? The main branch lives in luxury while the collateral branch suffers? Are they born to be treated like dirt? My smile turned cold. Ling Ba froze, his attempt to curry favor backfiring. That brat almost ruined us. Ling Ba panicked. I must find a way to clear the young master's grudge. His eyes landed on the pitiful Lingener. He seems interested in her. Ling Ba's eyes lit up. He whispered an order to a servant, who immediately raced toward the Ling estate. I ignored Ling Ba, focusing on learning about Ling Yu's background. Orphaned young, he had survived as a beggar, laborer, and woodcutter, leading a complex life. Despite the poverty, he had developed a resilient character. His only dream was to become a martial artist to protect his sister. My parents are gone. Anur is my only family. I will never let her suffer again. Ling Yu spoke with fierce determination, reaffirming his vow. Loyal and stubborn, I noted. It's a pity. Becoming a martial artist is difficult. Even wealthy families struggle to afford the training. I said softly. Cultivation resources, techniques, medicinal herbs, monster crystal cores, energy, ore, and equipment. Everything was prohibitively expensive. On the Four Directions continent, martial arts were for the rich. Without hundreds of gold coins, it was an impossible dream. I know, Ling Yu replied with a bitter smile. Lingener sighed, knowing her brother's stubborn nature would never let him abandon his dreams. Since you two have no family in Bayang City, why not follow me? I happen to need 2 helpers. I smiled. Following me won't guarantee you become a peerless master, but becoming a martial artist won't be difficult. The guests at Wangdong Tower gasped in shock and envy. Ling Yu was incredibly lucky. I, a mysterious and powerful Ranshan realm expert, was offering to take him in. A few pointers could easily elevate Ling Yu to the Ninghun realm. Most commoners never even reached the lowest rank of martial artist. Following me was far better than street performing. The siblings were about to soar like phoenixes. The crowd watched with intense jealousy, many wishing they could be my servants instead. Everyone envied the siblings' sudden stroke of fortune. Even Ling Ba felt a pang of jealousy. Ling Yu was lucky to latch onto a scion of the Su prince's estate. Being a servant to a Su prince's estate scion was a position of prestige, often rivaling minor nobility. They were essentially core members of the estate. Ling Ba himself secretly wished to join my service. The benefits were too great to ignore. I watched the siblings, calculating. Ling Yu's personality was perfect for a loyal confidant. I saw my own struggle in Ling Yu, the desperate need to seize every resource to shatter the shackles of fate. Ling Yu hesitated, his eyes bright, but his expression conflicted. Young master, I already owe you too much. I cannot burden you with my training. I will keep your kindness in my heart and repay you if I ever succeed. Ling Yu was firm. He didn't want to exploit the man who had already saved him twice. I raised an eyebrow. The boy was stubborn, but training a martial artist was merely the cost of a meal to me. Yet, Ling Yu refused to be further indebted. Just then, a Ling family servant rushed in with 2 thin slips of paper. Ling Ba brightened, took the papers, and bowed to me. Young master, these are the indentures for Ling Yu and Lingener. The Ling family offers them to you as a token of our gratitude. It was clear I was interested, and this gift was perfectly timed. Ling Ba smiled confidently, believing I would accept the gesture as a sign that the Ling family would no longer interfere with the siblings. The siblings looked at the indentures with despair, remaining silent. Ling Yu clenched his fists. For a proud youth, these papers were the ultimate humiliation. Oh, the Ling family makes even collateral relatives sign indentures? Are they not of your bloodline? I took the papers, eyeing Ling Ba with a mocking smile. Ling Ba stiffened, hurriedly explaining. They were temporary. They worked to pay off their father's funeral debts. I only did this to prevent them from suffering on the streets. Ling Ba leaned in, whispering, Rest assured, young master, they are pure and untouched by the Ling family. He was implying that Ling Ner was still a virgin, hoping to entice me. My expression remained unreadable, leaving Ling Ba anxious. Fearing he had miscalculated, Ling Ba turned to the siblings. Young master is a good man. Serve him well. The guests found Ling Ba's sudden display of parental concern disgusting. Still, they're better off with young Master Su. At least they won't have to wander anymore. Ling Ba is a scoundrel, but he finally did one sensible thing. The crowd whispered among themselves. To everyone's shock, I turned and handed the indentures back to Ling Yu. Here, take them. They belong to you. I smiled. Ling Yu stared, stunned, his lips trembling. He never expected me to return them. Take them. Don't sign such things lightly. A man of ambition should not be a slave. My warm, radiant smile left Ling Ner deeply moved. She had seen many arrogant nobles, but never one as kind as me. By law, I was now their master, holding their future in my hands. Yet, I chose to relinquish that control. My refusal to bind them warmed the siblings' hearts. This was true magnanimity, the kind of nobility that was a blessing to commoners. Ling Ner's eyes welled with tears as she gazed at me. Young master, Ling Yu was overwhelmed. He knew he could be free if he accepted the papers. Yet, he hesitated. I cannot accept this kindness. He pushed the papers away and struggled to his feet. Ling Yu knelt, slamming his forehead against the floor. Bang! Bang! You have saved us repeatedly. We have no way to repay such benevolence. If I refuse now, I would be an ingrate. Please, keep the indentures. We wish to follow you for the rest of our lives. Please accept us as your servants. Ling Yu's voice trembled with emotion. My actions had shattered their defenses. To refuse such a master would be foolish. I paused, looking at Ling Ner. Ling Yu, are you sure? Your sister might not want to be a servant. It is my honor to serve you. Please, young master, allow us to stay. Ling Ner pleaded. Her eyes were bright with excitement and sincerity. Even in rags, her beauty and devotion were striking. Very well. I will hold on to these for now. If you ever want them back, just ask. I smiled, my eyes glinting with a hidden, cunning light. I knew that to secure true loyalty, one had to play the game. A leader needs quality confidence. Ling Yu's resilience and principles made him the perfect candidate. I had intended to recruit them from the start. In the Four Directions continent, martial artists were common, but loyal confidants were rare. I needed them to build my future power. Mastering the art of talent recognition is essential for a lord. Apologies for the late update. It's Monday. Please support with recommendations and tips to boost the rankings. System, congratulations, you have recruited a native general. Gained 1,000 public support energy. General rank, common general. View specific attributes in the Lord interface. The system notification chimed as I accepted Ling Yu's submission. I raised an eyebrow. I recruited Ling Yu both for his personality and to test the system's reward logic. Instead of a lucky draw, the system granted 1,000 public support energy. I pondered if the reward was based on quality or random, glancing at Ling Yu with a wry smile. Ling Yu's talent was mediocre, but given that even martial prodigy Yang Mingwei was only a good general, the system's standards were clearly high. Ling Yu must possess hidden merits for the system to classify him as a general. His stats were basic: 18 years old, human, 95 loyalty, common general rank, no skills or talents. I smiled. Rise. Call me young master from now on. Su Nan, teach him the rules. Su Bo, buy them some decent clothes. I instructed my servants. A lord's servants reflect my own status. They must be well-dressed. Su Nan and Su Bo complied. The banquet at Wangdong Tower effectively ended. General Yang and Yang Mingwei congratulated me on my new recruit. I responded with polished, balanced courtesy. My 2 lifetimes of experience made me adept at social interactions. When focused, I was superior to any elite in the Imperial capital. Ling Ba, sensing I held no grudge, bowed politely. Young master, I won't disturb your rest. I shall visit the Yang mansion another day to offer a formal apology. I waved him off. No need, Ling City Lord. We are friends now. Let's put this behind us. The surrounding nobles were envious. Ling Ba seized the opportunity. Agreed. I will have the supplies delivered to the Yang mansion by tomorrow morning. I was currently staying at the Yang mansion. The other nobles followed suit, promising timely delivery of their tributes. I smiled as I saw the fat sheep off. General Yang escorted me and the Ling siblings back to the mansion. Breaking local norms, I invited the maid, Lingener, to ride in my carriage. This gesture of respect shocked General Yang and his entourage. Ling Yu was moved. Such care for a servant was unheard of in the Four Directions continent. The carriage was a luxurious vessel made of expensive snow mountain wood. It was plush, lined with bear fur, featuring a central tea table. The table held incense and my favorite Qingma tea. The tea was aromatic and refreshing. Lingener prepared the tea with trembling, delicate hands. I sipped it. A bit hot. Lingener blushed, apologizing. I laughed gently. It's fine. Take your time learning. Lingener looked at me with shy, heartfelt admiration. I realized the system hadn't provided details on her when I accepted her. I wondered if I could check her attributes. I opened the system panel while sipping my tea. Lingener, 17, human, 100 loyalty, special status. Infatuated, no rank, no skills/talents. Infatuated. I blinked. I choked. I spat the tea onto Lingener. Oh, young master, she cried. I apologized, confused by the infatuated status. Lingener was flustered and embarrassed. She looked ready to hide in a hole from shame. Her panicked, innocent beauty was captivating. I forced myself to look away. I handed her a white handkerchief. Carrying a handkerchief was standard etiquette for nobles in the Chengtian Empire. Thank you, young master, she whispered. She wiped the tea from her clothes. Please support the author with votes and tips. The carriage's soundproofing kept the incident private, preserving my image. A lord's image is paramount. It dictates my control over subordinates and the cohesion of my forces. Great leaders build charisma through small, consistent actions that win hearts. Only a true leader can inspire soldiers to die for my glory. I continued to strive toward that ideal. Ignoring the distraction of Ling and Nurse Beauty, I focused on my confusion. System, what does the infatuated status mean? I asked internally. It reflects a woman's attitude toward the host. States include none, infatuated, obsessed, and devoted. It has no mechanical effect. Note, a lord must expand his territory and ensure his bloodline continues. A grand lord needs a proper spouse. Note 2. Host. Once a female companion reaches the infatuated status or higher, you may engage in traditional human sexual reproduction. I was speechless, finding the system's priorities bizarre. I'm not even dead yet, and you're already planning my lineage? Sexual reproduction? Why not just call it what it is instead of using academic jargon? I'm here stressing over my future, and you're just obsessed with me having children? I felt a headache coming on. The system was too rigid, viewing everything through a cold, logical lens while ignoring human emotions and the nuances of relationships. In the system's view, any high-quality female should be taken in to secure the bloodline. Still, Lingener seemed close to that infatuated state. Does this mean I could soon? I glanced at Lingener. She was sneaking a peek at me, and our eyes met. Like a startled rabbit. Lingener quickly looked away, her face flushing crimson. She had been caught staring at her young master. Lingener felt shy and flustered. I rubbed my nose awkwardly, cursing the system for stirring up trouble. Forget it, I won't argue with you. I rolled my eyes and mentally commanded. System, open the lottery roulette. I hadn't forgotten my remaining draw. A colorful roulette wheel appeared, filled with various items. It contained everything from supreme treasures to absolute junk from across the worlds. My first draw had yielded the legendary tier Jade Prince Celadon robe. While not a weapon, it provided excellent protection. Wondering what I'd get this time, I commanded, start. The wheel spun rapidly in my mind. Stop, I said, trying to remain calm despite my internal tension. Lottery draws were a gamble on one's luck. I hoped my luck wasn't terrible. I focused intently as the wheel slowed, a dark, tangible light diffusing from it. Ding! The pointer landed. I breathed a sigh of relief. It wasn't a world-shattering item, but it was practical. Meanwhile, in the Imperial capital, events related to me were unfolding. In the Qingxin Hall, the first prince remained awake by candlelight. He sat at his desk, face cold, as several men in black knelt before him. So, the Su family trash escaped? The first prince's voice was chilling, piercing like needles. This. The men exchanged glances. One gritted his teeth. Yes, master. We found the bodies of our men 160 miles from the capital. 51 Ninghun realm warriors, including 50 of my concubine's personal guards, couldn't kill a non-martial Suyu? The first prince's eyes flashed with fury. I and my old servant were non-martial, and our only guard was a crippled Gyuti realm fighter. How could 51 experts fail to eliminate such a weak trio? My prince, we found traces of a Ranshan realm expert at the scene. Someone of that caliber must have intervened. The man trembled, terrified of the prince's wrath. They were responsible for the failed layout and feared the consequences. I don't want excuses, I want results. The first prince sneered. Bloodguard, kill him. His bloodthirsty nature was no secret. Failure meant death. Yes. A shadow appeared behind the man. A flash of blood, and the man's head flew off. He died in despair. The bloodguard vanished back into the shadows. The remaining men prostrated themselves, trembling. One stammered. My prince, shall we send more men? I swear we will finish him this time. They hoped to redeem themselves by killing me. Their lives depended on my death. To their surprise, the first prince didn't immediately agree. He narrowed his eyes and sighed. Forget it. Stop the pursuit for now. If a Ranshan realm expert appeared, Su Long must know. That's likely why that woman returned to the capital. The first prince was frustrated. Intercepting me mid-journey was now impossible. My survival and military advisor Nian's return had stalled his plans. Nian had been busy visiting court officials since her return. She was using Su Long's name to rally powerful generals and marquises. With the god of war Su's prestige, her actions were unsettling the generals aligned with the first prince. Every move Nian made struck at the first prince's weak points. With the old emperor's health failing, the prince had no time for me. Dealing with Nian and the throne was his priority. Notify the Beishan County governor. Let him handle Suyu. Make it look like an accident. The first prince sipped his tea, smiling arrogantly. Beishan is my territory. If he goes there, he won't leave alive. The old emperor's decree ensured I would fall into his trap regardless. If I defied the decree, it would ruin the Su prince's estate's reputation. If I obeyed, I would walk into a death trap. Either way, the prince saw no path for me. He had to cut off every escape route. The trash had to die. The human race valued bloodlines. As the only heir, I was the spiritual symbol of the Su family. As long as I lived, the Su family remained a threat. Understood, master. I will notify the governor immediately. The first prince dismissed his black-clad spies, sitting alone in his study to contemplate the imperial capital's power structure. He whispered to himself, ordering the dosage of the old emperor's medicine to be increased by 1/3, demanding absolute secrecy. Yes, master. A blood guard replied from the shadows before silently exiting the room. The world believed the old emperor was merely frail, unaware that his most trusted son was poisoning him. Father, I am desperate. You will forgive me, won't you? The first prince sighed, his eyes cold as his shadow flickered eerily against the candlelight. He decided to accelerate his plans. He could wait no longer. At 30, he could not afford to wait until he was old to claim the throne. He had plotted for years and now hungered for power. Once the Su family is gone and I have Su Long's military authority, the throne will be mine. He pondered his next moves. Despite his unease, a review of his schemes revealed no flaws. There were no variables that could stop him, not even the return of military advisor Nian. Yet his heart raced. If the capital was a chessboard, he and the Su prince's estate were both players and pieces. He realized his anxiety stemmed from an unforeseen variable outside his control. The only variable was I, but he dismissed the thought. Could a waste really turn the tables? He mocked his own suspicion, wondering why he would worry about someone he had deemed a failure for 20 years. The first prince smirked with disdain. Meanwhile, in Baiyang City, I sat in my carriage. I sneezed, prompting a worried Lingener to fuss over my health. As my maid, she was deeply devoted to my well-being. I laughed, attributing the sneeze to someone missing me. I felt optimistic about my new item, which would solve my lack of manpower. Sunan announced their arrival at the Yang mansion, and I stepped out, holding Lingener's hand. Lingener blushed deeply at my touch, her heart racing. I, driven by my past life's habits of chivalry, meant nothing improper. I simply wanted to help her down, knowing she was frail. I felt a responsibility to care for the women around me. Careful, why are you so red? Are you ill? I looked at her with genuine concern. She looked like a ripe peach, her face flushed with shyness. No, it's just a bit hot, she whispered. She stared at her worn shoes, feeling out of place before the Grand Yang mansion. She felt she would never have entered such a place without me. She felt a mix of joy and inferiority. Sensing her insecurity, I smiled and led her inside. Remember, as long as I am here, you have nothing to fear. Wherever I go, you go. I squeezed her hand, encouraging her. You are so kind, young master, she replied. She looked at my profile and beamed. With such a gentle master, she felt like the happiest woman alive. I laughed, recalling similar praise from others. She remarked that whoever married me would be truly blessed. I teased her, asking if she feared being abandoned once I had a wife. Never. You are my maid for life. You can't escape. You might even have to warm my bed later. Young master, you're terrible, she pouted. Her smile grew, her shyness tinged with a newfound charm. She was a beautiful sight. I felt I had a duty to protect such beauty. Inside, General Yang left them to settle in, leaving his son to assist. I occupied a quiet courtyard and asked Su Bo about the clothes I had requested. They had been purchased quickly through the Yang mansion's connections. I ordered Lingener to change and told Lingyu to wash up, insisting my people must look presentable. I spoke with calm authority. I had prepared new clothes for the siblings to replace their rags. Yes, young master, Lingyu replied. I saw no issue with having servants assist Lingener. Lingener was nervous, having never been served before. She and her brother were overwhelmed by my kindness. I instructed Lingyu to learn from the veteran Su Nan, and told the others to prepare to receive supplies the next day. They obeyed respectfully. I announced we would depart for Baishan County immediately after receiving the supplies. Su Nan was surprised by the haste. There is no time to lose, I insisted. I had no desire to linger in Baiyang City. With the supplies and manpower secured, I was ready to move. My room was divided. Lingener would sleep in the outer room to be ready to serve me. Late at night, I studied the maps and intelligence on Baishan County provided by General Yang. The general had been efficient in gathering this information. Though not perfectly detailed, it was sufficient for my current needs. I carefully studied the intelligence. Lacking strategists, I had to handle the collection, analysis, and planning for my upcoming campaign personally. The situation in Baishan County was grim, but I had to go, necessitating early preparation. Fortunately, with the support of Baiyang City's nobles, I now commanded 7,000 troops. 5,000 of these were Mingji realm warriors, a massive investment from the nobles, who had scraped together every available fighter. These 7,000 men were my sharp blade. I tasked Su Nan with their training, intending to implement the Su Prince's estate's rigorous military standards to maximize their combat effectiveness. This force was sufficient for me to seize control of Haishi County and Baishan County. Once I reached my territory and fully activated the system's remaining functions, I was confident I would soar. As I pondered, the door opened. Lingener entered, having finished bathing and changing. Her damp hair draped over her shoulders, and she carried a faint, clean fragrance. She wore high-quality made attire provided by Su Bo, far superior to what commoners could afford. The clothes were tailored perfectly, with red and white patterns at the waist, framing a shy, blushing face. "Young master," she said timidly, twisting her hands nervously. Her voice was as gentle as her appearance. Clothes truly made the person. The girl's beauty had skyrocketed, her innocent shyness proving intoxicating. My eyes lit up, and I praised her. Lotus flowers cannot compare to a beauty's adornment. "You look stunning, Anur." While she lacked the stature of the Su family women, she possessed a unique, youthful charm. If Miss Huyen was intellectual and Su Huimi was bold, Ling Yin'er was the epitome of a gentle, pure maiden from the Jiangnan water towns. I don't understand your words, young master, she said, lowering her head, her fingers turning white from tension. No matter, I laughed. I had Su Bo bring a zither. It's right there. I can't sleep, I added gently. Bring it here and play a tune for me. Ling Yin'er looked up, dazed and adorable. Oh, right away, young master. I shook my head, suppressing my natural desires. Now was not the time for indulgence. I could not afford to relax until I had established my own power and territory. Ling Yin'er brought the zither and sat on a small stool beside me. The atmosphere turned intimate as she shyly plucked the strings, filling the room with melodic sound. She stole. I sighed internally, feeling like I was being tempted to lose my self-control. Just as I struggled, Ling Yu knocked on the door. Young master, I have changed. The voice shattered the room's romantic tension. Ling Yu had followed my orders to report immediately after changing. Come in, I said, regaining my composure. It was time to use the item I had won. With the journey to Beishan County approaching, the stakes were high. Ling Yu entered and bowed respectfully, mimicking the etiquette Su Nin had just taught him. Sit, I said, gesturing to a stool. Ling Yu sat on the edge of the stool, showing his deep respect. His attention to detail proved he was a serious and sensible youth. Pleased, I returned to my documents, marking them with my brush. I left the boy waiting for half an incense stick's time, yet Ling Yu remained silent and patient. Good, a steady temperament, I noted, though I found the boy a bit cold and taciturn. Overall, I was satisfied. The system item would not be wasted on him. Ling Yin'er served tea to her brother and me. I sipped my tea and asked, You've always wanted to be a martial artist, haven't you? Yes, young master, Ling Yu replied solemnly. Good. Tonight, I will make you one. Ling Yu's heart hammered against his chest. Is it true? He asked, his voice trembling with disbelief. Can I really become a martial artist tonight? When have I ever lied to you? I smiled. A Mingji realm warrior. That's amazing. I will work hard and never fail your expectations. Ling Yu muttered to himself, overwhelmed by gratitude for the fulfillment of his lifelong dream. Mingji realm. I chuckled. No, stronger. Beauty realm. Ling Yu was stunned. Even stronger, I added. I estimate you'll reach the Ninghun realm by tonight, I said calmly. Ninghun realm. Ling Yu gasped, completely shocked. He sat there, mouth agape, staring at me in disbelief. The Ninghun realm was a level he had never dared to imagine, and I claimed he could reach it in one night. He recalled being hunted by the Ling family just hours ago, struggling to afford a single meal. Even the lowest Mingji realm had been an unreachable peak. Now, I was elevating him to the powerful Ninghun realm. Ling Yu was filled with profound shock and awe. Ling Yin'er watched, her eyes wide with wonder. Young master, please teach me. I will follow you in everything. Ling Yu stood up, trembling with excitement. He was too agitated to speak clearly. Don't rush, I said. I smiled and reached into my pocket, accessing the Lord's backpack to retrieve a small box. The box was ink black, heavy, and covered in mysterious patterns. I opened it to reveal a red and white pill that emitted a fragrant aroma, instantly sharpening the mind. It was a Lord's Servant Intermediate Realm pill. These items were exclusive to Lord's servants, and I felt satisfied with my acquisition. I realized these pills were the core assets of the Grand Lord system. With enough public support energy and population, I could forge a powerful legion in an instant. This is a special Su family pill. Your dreams will come true tonight. I watched Ling Yu with a wicked smile, as if observing a lab rat. I was unsure if the Lord's Servant Intermediate Realm pill carried any hidden side effects. I'll take it. Ling Yu volunteered, eager to be the first. A wave of heat surged through his limbs, followed by agonizing, bone-deep pain. Humph! Ling Yu groaned, collapsing to his knees under the crushing intensity. Ah! He roared, his face contorted as the pain escalated. Even the stubborn Ling Yu struggled to endure it. It felt as if his soul was being torn and his bones shattered. His body was being fundamentally reforged. Ling Yin'er worriedly asked if her brother would be okay, but I reassured her. She trusted me completely. The agony passed as quickly as it arrived. Within 10 minutes, Ling Yu's trembling ceased, and a powerful aura began to rise from him. The system confirmed. Loyalty of Servant Ling Yu has reached 100. Sonic booms cracked from his palms. I can feel my internal force. I'm a martial artist, he shouted, overwhelmed. Tears streamed down his face as he laughed. He and his sister had struggled for 18 years just to survive. Now, he would never be bullied again. He owed it all to the young man sitting before him. Thump. Ling Yu knelt, bowing his head in total submission. I have no way to repay this grace. I pledge my life to protect you for eternity. His words were absolute. He surrendered all pride and caution to offer his total loyalty. He was now a weapon dedicated solely to his master. His eyes burned with fanatical devotion.